ladies and gentlemen. I am joined here today by Mr. Steve Henegan and Mr. Terry McCoy. These are the Spartan Life Coaches. This is Sparta. How long have we been working together for on this project, the Spartan Life Coach project?
Touching 4 to 5 years.
I'd said 5.
Is it really 5 years?
Yeah.
The 5 best years of your lives.
That's it's made me the man I am. So you got a lot to answer for there.
I have a lot. You're supposed to be helping people overcome trauma, not traumatizing the people who are coaching them.
This trauma has lasted.
Cases next week, isn't it?
Yeah, this trauma has lasted 5 years now.
So before we were working together, what was Terry? What was your background before we started on the Spartan Life Coach project?
Well, I run a company called the NLP Works.
Yep.
Teaching NLP, does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
I teach NLP, hypnosis, EFT,
NLP,
technique.
Nice
NLP.
long pantomime.
Yeah.
What's NLP?
Neuro-linguistic programming.
And you're a master trainer.
Just a master.
Master.
No, I'm a certified trainer of NLP.
Which is the highest you can get, isn't it?
Well,
qualification-wise.
Okay, suppose,
You can make somebody a practitioner, master practitioner.
I can create practitioners and master practitioners.
Yeah, so you're like a chief wizard.
Yeah. I've got a pointier hat than most.
Yeah.
And so a neurolinguistic program is your main background, isn't it?
Yeah,
training.
that and coaching.
Coaching, yeah.
Yeah.
Steve, what was your background before we started working together?
Well, how far back are we going? Because we go back.
We go back.
After many years in corporate, I was in corporate for a while. I was management consultant for a while, which is about as corporate as it gets. And then,
what's a management consultant do? Do you teach people how to do management? Is that it?
we take the blame. We take the money and we take the blame.
Okay.
Often, I mean,
It's very Catholic, that,
cynical.
isn't it? It's very Catholic.
Absolutely.
They're always a Catholic. Catholics for life.
Yeah. It really does. I mean, people bring in management consultants for a variety of reasons. That cynical one is because they need some change to happen.
Yeah.
They can't make it happen themselves for maybe political reasons or historical reasons. So they bring you in, you recommend the change sort of and they give you a loan of money and then it's, well, this is what the consultants recommended.
Yes.
That is cynical. And sometimes it was like that, but sometimes it's just you're bringing in, domain knowledge that they won't have.
Yeah.
Fresh pair of eyes.
So sometimes it's done naively. We do actually just want better management skills.
Yes.
And sometimes it's cultural change that can be laid at your feet.
Yeah, absolutely. So you do have to, you'd have to take the blame for that. But then anyway, having done that for quite a while, I moved into coaching, and because of that background, the coaching I did was corporate coaching. Yeah. So I was working with businesses,
right?
With individuals and teams.
Yeah,
usually quite senior at times, because one of the things that you realise is a lot of senior people in organisations have nobody to talk to.
Right.
For all sorts of reasons.
Yeah.
They can't show their weakness, they're political or wherever. So for them to be able to just talk to you as a coach.
Yeah.
So you're non-directive. You're doing same as Terry would be doing with people, doing coaching.
Yeah.
And that was really, really good. Quite enjoyed that because it actually gave me a chance to maybe wipe some of that cynical view out my eye and think, they're actually humans.
Yeah.
They just haven't got somebody to talk to. And then I sort of, from there, decided I wanted to do more of personal work. So I went into normal coaching, if there is such a thing, life coaching. Yeah. Working with, but I'd use the corporate to build up the business. So I did that for a long time. A lot of people, interestingly enough, there are a lot of people in Liverpool, well, of a certain age, because as time goes on, people forget, but would have known me from something completely different. And that was 2008 when the financial crash hit and people started reining in all their training budgets and things. I'm stranded.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine got me a role working for an organisation called Business Link. So I became the Merseyside manager for Business Link, which was actually a great organisation. And I took it as a lifeboat, stayed for 3 years. The market started to pick up again and I wanted to get back into normal coaching. So, and then of course we had our famous governments of two parties. What would you call it? when the Conservatives and the Lib Dems, coalition.
Coalition.
And one of the first things they did was close Business Link down.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So the timing for me was okay because I'd got back into sort of, coaching, which is what I like doing. I like doing the coaching. I really liked it. And then somewhere not too long after that, we met up with you in a coffee shop in West Kirby.
West Kirby, yeah.
Costa.
La.
And you said, they've got this mad idea.
Hey lads, there's something here we could be doing,
But I like that idea. I mean, as I would recall it, and maybe you've got different versions, as I would recall it, it was there was something in there that caught my attention, was that you'd been doing content for a while, very successfully, and you sort of came out with this thing that said, but you sort of know that some people are buying your content and then just not doing anything with it.
Yeah.
So if we could have a merged of a bit the content and the personal coaching.
Yeah.
So to give them to impose some accountability on them.
Yeah.
And that was great, wasn't it? That really worked very well.
I'd actually forgot that. Was there?
That was the CPTSD course.
That was the CPTSD course.
Yes.
Was what we started with, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that went well, as I recall. Winding the clock back just before that point, though, how do I know you, Terry?
From the living room.
The living room, a great time, full of great people.
Hey, fantastic.
That was a chapter of Liverpool history. That
it was.
I thought it would go on forever.
I know you do, though, don't you? You do,
don't
you?
You
do, don't you, Steve? Terry, you do, don't you?
It does in my head.
It did for you, did it?
I never left.
You never left. You're still in the living room.
Yeah.
You can never leave. That really was an amazing place.
People tried to replicate it and they couldn't do it.
No, they had a magic, and I look back very, very fondly on those memories because I was a doorman on there, on the living room and the Mosquito, and the whole thing. Obviously, rose-tinted spectacles. You look back and you don't remember the bad stuff, but it was a real moment, a real chapter in Liverpool history, and you had there was local business people there. There was like celebrities there. It was a really well-run place as well.
With the possible exception of Blue, that was the first real sort of bar that was really sort of high class.
I thought you were going to say, with the possible exception of Blue, there was some good celebrities there, as in the band Blue. That guy just messaged me on TikTok the other day. One of the band members from Blue, because they were in there a lot. Well, a few times they're in there.
Yeah.
Anton Deck was in there and all that, weren't they, back in the day?
Louise Redknapp and all that.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. With the exception of Blue, there just wasn't. Yeah. And there is nothing now. There's nothing like that now.
And even Blue couldn't touch it because this is what I found with the living room was you'd walk in, as soon as you walk in, because they knew they were
good,
trained, weren't they?
Good staff.
Within 30 seconds, someone would acknowledge you.
Yeah.
And you knew you were going to get served. You go, you, and then you.
Yeah.
So you knew,
But everywhere's shit now.
Yeah.
Because you can always go back to the living room, and very few bars, very few restaurants can match that level because they were on
I've
a
never
tip.
seen it since.
They were on a tip system, weren't they? So they were highly motivated, well trained, and they kept the standards high. They tested them every week, and well paid as well.
We were just
young people.
In driving
And
over
they gave
here
you
now.
free
We were just sorry, mate. Sorry to cut across you. We were talking about another bar. We couldn't remember the name of it. We still can't. And I remember I said the guy they brought in as the operations manager for that new bar.
That's right. Yeah. Russell.
He calls it
I think it was
Russell.
Russell.
I thought it was Tom in a man. He'd come from living room.
Yeah.
He'd come from there. There was the standard.
Yeah.
They basically poached him for that standard of management.
Yeah, world class.
No, wouldn't you? You'd know his name, wouldn't you? The guy who was the manager of Mosquito.
I know some of
was
the
the
managers of
operations manager.
Mosquito. Yeah.
Big tall guy, black hair.
That's Nick.
Nick.
No,
okay.
another name now.
No, there's more
Anyway.
names to throw in the hat. Big tall guy or burying. There's Bez, there was Nick with black hair.
Those were the days.
Those were the
Nick
days.
could be the one,
Yeah. He was on Life originally. He was on Life Cafe before. Because I started with him as a manager. Well, the first nightclub security job I ever did was the comedy club at Life Cafe on Bold Street. Did you ever get there to the comedy club?
Used to be the
down there?
Lyceum, did it?
Used to be the Lyceum,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, but you were that in those days. You were throwing them in, not throwing them out.
Yeah. Get in there now.
And laugh
quickly. Steve,
Yeah.
to this day, I don't know specifically how we know each other. I don't know whether it's from
despite the court case, you still don't.
that's tapping on my window.
That's denial.
Yeah, that's denial. I don't know why I know him. I've no idea.
Well, I don't. But I do, insofar as I came across your videos when you
Did you wipe up afterwards?
When you
I'm
do.
sorry. Fucking hell. Jacob.
Edit that.
If I do that again, just throw something at me. Come on.
When you were doing
My
your
mum listens to this.
Not anymore.
well, I'm shocked. You did a video series called streetfightsecrets.com.
That's right. Yeah.
I paid good money for that.
You're not getting it back.
I was naive. I was young. It was a different
impressionable.
time.
Impressionable.
I had them on bootleg.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. No, oops.
Right.
So I think that's where I don't know. And then from general, I was aware of you doing that, and I thought, I was aware that you were a Scouser, although you're a posh Scouser. You're on the Wirral, so
Wool.
a wool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't know. I might have messaged you something about something you did on Street Fight Secrets or something.
It's with you. My memory is much more. Cause I have a distinctive memory, because we spoke about education.
That's right. Yeah.
NLP.
That was right. Yeah.
Knew you from the door. Yeah. But with you, it was like I know that guy, and it was like porous, and then
like a genie.
Yeah. And then I think the first time we spoke was at La Casa, at a salsa night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's
because you were going in for salsa classes with.
That's right.
What's your man?
Yeah, it's the baldy bloke.
You can say
I can say that.
You're a member of his people. That's not racist for you to say.
I can't think of his name now. I can't think of his name.
Well, he's the Aikido and karate guy.
Yeah, he's Aikido guy. Yeah. And he teaches salsa.
And he's a great salsa teacher as well. Yeah, really good salsa teacher.
But I think it's more. Maybe it's a case of when the student is ready, the master will arrive.
Yeah. When's he coming? Can you invite him in now? Yeah. No, it was one of these things. I mean, you must have been in the living room as well, because it was one of these things.
Well, I did go in the living room, but yeah.
I know this guy. I know this guy.
You knew faces, didn't you?
Yeah.
See, that's another thing about the living room in those days was you'd know faces even if you didn't know people. You'd smile. You say hello, and
that's Liverpool as a city. Well, it's small enough that you can walk down the street and let on to people. And I think both of you are going, how the fuck do I know them? And you probably don't really know each other.
You just know the face.
You've seen each other 6-7 times in a bar or a club, and you know enough to let on to them, but you don't know the names. You don't know.
I could say you used to always stop me and ID me on the way into the club because
you're too young looking, too gorgeous. Give us your ID, you sexy. That was just to stop you and chat you up. That's a dormant tactic. That
it worked.
Give us your ID, babe. Oh, what's your name? Oh, Mr. Henegan. Oh, damn. So I remember having the chat in the coffee shop. There was going to be 5 people who were supposed to.
That's right. Yeah, wasn't there another person with us at the time?
There was. Who's that?
Was there?
Yeah.
Male or female?
Male.
Oh. Well, and obviously never went forward. And
you missed out, whoever you were, sir.
Did miss out. Yeah. And it wasn't anybody you'd know from the sort of coaching types. Because I for a while, well, for a long time actually, 5-6 years or something, ran something called the Northwest Coaching Circle.
Yeah.
Which was a monthly meetup, and it just brought coaches, therapists, hypnotherapists, a whole range of people together, and that was great.
That's cool.
It was really good because you came along a lot of times. In fact, you spoke a few times, didn't you?
A couple of times, yeah.
And that was a way of you got to know other people in the person-centered sort of world, and you got to hear other ideas and other theories and all the rest of it. So that was really, really good. So I have a hangover from that for a while, knowing lots of people who've dipped in or dipped out or stayed in that community.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. You just get to know lots of people.
I think there was going to be a couple of younger. Oh, I say younger. They were about 30 to 35-year-old girls, women who were going to come who were CBT trained,
right?
But they were newly qualified within the NHS.
Oh, okay.
And then they were going to do this as a sideline. And I think at the last minute they probably just looked at me and thought, "No, he's too much of a nutcase." Because the transition from Street Fight Secrets to Spartan Life Coach was rapid, and it wasn't long behind. I mean, I think if it was 5 years ago, we must have started in 2016, something like that.
Probably about right, I think.
And I'd only had the Street Fight Secrets channel was only deleted off YouTube in 2012 for being too violent. There you go. So that was the nature of the Street Fight Secrets channel. It was fairly gritty stuff.
It was, but the thing, the crossover was that you brought. I mean, for this, I'm pretty sure I've got some CDs at home. Cost me a fortune. About NLP in combat or something, because you crossed over, you brought in things, because a lot of yours was physical techniques, which we all go to certain classes and we learn, but then you brought in a lot of the psychological aspect of it, the mindset.
It was the assertive one as well, wasn't it? That sort of crossover, didn't it?
And stuff. I
know a lot of people who watched that and applied it to what they're doing now,
with the narcissism, the narcissistic abuse. That was the bridge with the self-assertiveness course. I don't think I ever got an aim really through teaching physical techniques, because I wasn't teaching anything different. Combatives is combatives. You look at what I was doing. Lee Morrison,
exactly.
The guy from Liverpool. There's only so many ways you can defend yourself. But I think it was the psychology, wasn't it?
I was very good. It was good. I'm not just saying that. It was. I'd never seen anybody bring that element into it before. Right. Yeah, you'll get people, various instructors talking about you've got to have the right mindset, as well as the physical skills. But you managed to bring in a lot more. But what is that mindset? And how do you do that? How do you get yourself to the right mindset?
There was some good material that, looking back, I feel a bit conflicted about it, because I don't think it was massively mentally healthy, the stuff, because a lot of it was aggression training. Basically what nice people needed, or law enforcement officers, and it was the air marshals for a while. They're all basically civilized people who have to deal with not civilized people. And I was like, well, the advantage that not civilized people have is they're nasty and they're aggressive. I know. So how do I get you, who ultimately wants to go home to your wife, your kids, your mortgage, and your civilized life, to be as aggressive as they are
when you need to,
and then switch it off.
Absolutely, throw the switch on and off again.
Without breaking legal boundaries. It was a tough one. It was an interesting puzzle to wrestle with. So as far as that goes, you'd not worked with CPTSD as CPTSD before that, had you?
Not used that label.
Use that label,
but prior to meeting you, I'd done about 5 years of almost totally PTSD and anxiety as a result of accidents, personal accidents.
That's right. I forgot that.
Car crashes, not just car crashes, but any accidents, explosions, whatever.
Yeah, and that was your speciality in work for 5 years. Yeah. So PTSD related to singular traumatic events.
Well, here's the funny thing. They would come to me because they'd been in a particular single incident. But the vast majority, by the time you'd spoken to them, you'd find that there was another incident, there'd be another instance as well. Yeah. So some were CPTSD. Yeah. Because they've had three, maybe you had 3 car crashes, and this third one was the one that broke the camel's back.
Shouldn't be carrying camels in cars, mate.
No, it's out of order. I mean, not in the modern age.
I thought I did the jokes.
Yeah, no, well, this is the thing, Terry.
We never agreed beforehand who's doing the jokes.
He's infringing on your boundaries there, lad. You know what I mean? No respect for your national sovereignty.
Exactly, yes. No.
Don't get the hump.
Oh, stop it now. Yeah. I'll do the humping. No. So you didn't call it complex post-traumatic stress disorder, but you were actually dealing with people who probably had CPTSD.
Well, it was anxiety then, because they would come to me via a clinical psychologist who'd done the clinical report.
Yes.
And it would either be, generalized anxiety as a result of.
Yes. Yeah.
Or, PTSD as a result of.
Right.
And then, you coined the phrase, well, not coined the phrase, but said it's CPTSD.
Yes. Yeah. Judith Herman.
And I realised,
by Pete Walker.
Been doing it for a while, actually.
Yes.
But not in that context.
Right. CPTSD wouldn't have been something. Did that come up for you?
No.
No.
Not particularly. Not particularly. Even listening, I know Terry's story, of course, from going back, but I do think, looking back at some of the people you'd be dealing with,
I suspect it would have done.
There was that in there. There was that in there, absolutely. Some very traumatized people. Funnily enough, I'd say, in senior management type roles.
Really?
Masses of like anxiety because it's about the position they hold, the authority they hold, the responsibility they hold.
Yeah.
And I would probably in those days been using very simple language like, what did it call
Stop it.
Yeah, stop it. Stop it. Yeah.
Just stop it.
What's it called? People think they're a fraud.
Imposter
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, yeah.
That sort of thing. So I was aware of it. Yeah, very naive sort of language and dealing with it and that. But looking back, that was causing the masses of trauma.
Yeah.
I used to often think a lot of the people, and coming from the management consultancy background, I was familiar with these people. They were often the people I'd have to report to and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then when you get behind the covers and talk to them one-on-one and they start to open up a little bit more, they're hanging on by their fingertips.
Yes. Yeah.
To the whole structure they've built.
Yeah.
And their position in life and all the rest of it.
It can be a very, it's not a world I've ever been in, but I look, my stepfather he's lucky he's in a position where he is indispensable to that business.
Right.
But most people aren't, are they? Even in senior management.
I know.
They're really not.
That's it.
And it feels, I'm only hearing secondhand stories from him and what he has to say to his senior managers, and even when he threatens them, and I think, wow, imagine you're on that salary, big salaries,
Yes.
you've got the big name, the big desk.
That's right.
But somebody above you is going, sort your shit out.
Absolutely.
Or you're out, and you might leave and then go across and get a bigger salary.
Yeah.
But you're still going to feel a certain way about the fact that you were kicked out in the first place.
Yeah. And because there was the other, if you simplify it, maybe very simplify it and split it, you got those people who are hanging on for dear life. And then the others who were so arrogant and had such a level of self-belief that they didn't know that they couldn't see the carnage they were causing around them.
Right. Yeah.
Like, threatening people with the sack if they didn't pull their socks up or didn't hit targets. And
that's it.
And you realise, and you get people say, well, the wrong targets.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You hit those targets. I hit mine. We all get a rise. Boom. Don't matter. But, so you get a whole mix of people. And I think, so coming back to your original point, though, I realised only later that there was a lot of trauma in there caused by this fear.
Yes. Yeah. It's I mean, I've not really spent that much time thinking about it, and I suppose generally speaking, you'd think, well, senior management, it's the upper echelons of capitalism. They're just a bunch of greedy pigs in a trough, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But it's not really like that, is it? It's actually a lot, and the amount of work. I mean, my stepfather is 71, and we had to stop him from doing 60-hour work weeks. Yeah. We just had to say to him, like, you must stop. Exactly. And he's adrenaline all the time. Yes. Up at 6, back up, up at 5 to get into work at 6, so he's ahead of everyone. Yeah, and he's got to show that you've got to be there. Presenteeism, watch him. Where are you? What are you doing? And he's driving all around London, around the M25, just so he can drop in on people. He's a terrorist, basically. Terrorizes, but he's there. He's not interested in the staff. It's the senior managers he's terrorizing to keep them on their toes. And you just think, wow, it's not. We have an idea from films and books and whatever, but when you actually see it under the hood, it's actually much more. It's a much more fragile world than I think most people would imagine.
I think so. I think it is fragile. Sorry, I'm beeping.
Is it what does that mean?
I think I should be somewhere.
What's the time for?
Defibrillator pads.
You need a piece of chocolate. I need my chocolate or I'll get grumpy in a minute. Have you got a pager? Was that a pager beep?
Some alarm. I'll have a look if you really
bother. Go on.
What time is it? Probably say the parking's finished or something. Oh, we were supposed to start at 2:30 originally. This today.
Yeah. So this is early.
This is 2:30.
Oh, this is 2:30 to let us know that you're starting.
Who was? That's how disciplined I am. I've got.
It's there. Yeah. Militant.
Anyway, start now. Go. The alarm's gone off.
Militant. We're ready to go. So every Thursday we get together and we box and punch each other in the face.
Yeah. Box is probably a little bit too.
We're doing some milling. We're milling.
Yeah. Thumping each other.
How many people were boxing today?
There's
only 3, wasn't it?
Me and Terry and this young guy. Well, everybody's a young guy.
When you say young, what's you?
It's great not being the oldest in the room.
Was he any good?
Oh yeah, they're all fit young lads, aren't they?
Yeah, bouncing around everywhere.
Yeah,
like a whip.
Hey, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The last week when I was in, there was the lad from the boxing club just down the road, and he was just couldn't.
Which one was that? Alan?
What's his name? Sharif?
Oh, no.
Rafe.
I know, he's great.
Yeah, everywhere.
I know.
He's here. He's every fucking where. Who's coming at me? And I have visual traumatic memories, PTSD memories of being in front of him. And I'm like, just hit him with your left hand. That's all you've got to do. And his head went, tung, 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 tung. It was like a cartoon. And I was like,
have you... You must have trained with B.
Yeah, I've trained with B.
Well, the thing about B, they say, the minute you get in the ring with B, he surrounds you.
Yeah. He was doing some Floyd Mayweather tricks with me. So I was trying to jab him in the face, and he was going like this.
Oh, he's good. He is good, yeah.
I was like, don't make it look that fucking easy. Look stressed. If you're going to dodge me on jabs like that, look stressed. Don't hurt my ego. What's
there wasn't as many there today, but you know what it's like. You get a good mix, don't you?
Yeah.
Have you've sparred with Mark, big Mark, 6'6" Mark?
Yes, yeah.
So you get from 6'6" Mark,
yes,
and he's a young athletic man,
yes,
to
and heavy.
Us,
some weight behind those punches.
To whatever. B's only about 5'5", 5'6" or something.
Yeah.
And if someone, you can't. Who would you rather spar with? They've both got skills that suit their abilities.
Well, when you say I sparred with Mark, what happened is a massive fella punched me on the top of my head.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah, I know.
I went like this.
He holds you off. He holds you off like this.
He just grabbed me by the head.
It's like a cartoon character.
So what's your background in martial arts, Terry?
Early 20, when I was in 1920, started Shotokan karate.
1920?
You weren't
When I was
19.
19. Oh,
How fucking old are you? In the 1920s, I took up karate.
I've got a picture in the attic.
It was black and white.
Yeah.
And we had to wear those Chinese shoes.
He's got his own theme music now.
Apologies, switched it off.
What the fuck is with that ring tune, mate?
Insomnia?
Insomnia.
Yeah.
Is that for when you're on the gear on the weekends? I've been on it all weekend, lad.
It's a good tune.
Got insomnia. So karate. What style of karate were you doing?
Shotokan.
Shotokan.
Yeah. There's a club in Diners Lane run by a guy called Jimmy O'Grady.
Yeah.
He used to go to our local.
Yeah.
And there was like an order around him. He's a black belt and he's in the England team. We'd be like, oh, wow. What's it like? And there's another guy there, Ronnie O'Toole, who's a black belt as well. Again, wow, this guy, he just went up to him and said, can we come?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a great guy.
Nice.
And that was it. I was hooked.
Yeah. How many years did you do Shotokan for?
God, from 19, a good 10 years maybe, something like that.
You competed as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Went and competed.
Well, it's still there, Terry. It still comes out of you sometimes. What's this punch that you do to the body?
The Gaigazuki, whatever.
Gaigazuki. Is it the Gaigazuki, Terry?
Yeah.
So
the body's all right with them.
Huh? Gaigazuki Chudan.
Gaigazuki Chudan.
Jordan
to the face.
So Gaigazuki is the punch, is it?
Gaigazuki. Back, reverse punch.
Yeah. Reverse punch. Gaigazuki Chudan. Gaigazuki Jordan. Him in the Jordan.
Nidan. If you want to punch down there, then it's Nidan, isn't it?
Where's Nidan?
Your lower half.
The groin.
Yeah.
The lumpy bits.
The lumpy bits in the Nidan. It still comes out of you when you're boxing. Every once in a while, I'll see. Yeah. I'll see you fucking wind it up when your hand comes back like that. I'm like, oh no.
Well, that's damning in itself, is if you can see me winding it up.
It still hurts when it lands, Terry. I'm not gonna
lie. Okay. Then my job is done.
When my ribs fold back towards my spine, I think, oh yeah, there's the Gaigazuki or whatever it is.
Now you know.
That's what it's called.
Better that you know.
Yeah. Better I know its name when it comes in.
Then I got hooked then.
Yeah. Left or right?
It just flows, doesn't it?
He's on it.
Flows. Then I did a little bit of a goju.
Yeah.
I started messing around with all different bits of bobs, Aikido and whatever,
Yeah.
dabbling.
Bit of dabbling. That's the word. Dabbling.
You got to dabble.
Muay Thai.
Bit of Muay Thai.
Yeah. You know, and when I got to about 40, I sort of laid off a bit.
Yeah.
And a bit of a gap, and then he was down my ear. Come, when you come over Thursday? No. When you come over Thursday? And that was it then. Rest is history.
The rest is history. Back boxing, and you don't like the grappling though, do you? When it comes to the MMA, no, you don't like that stuff. They're rolling around.
I think
if
it happened outside, I go, look, just there's me wallet. Fuck off.
Just get off me.
Yeah, get off.
I'm not doing this.
All right, lad, I'm not going to the ground.
Unless you make rules first, no pulling hair.
No pulling hair.
And no rolling on the floor.
Yeah, none
be
of
all
that.
right then.
Yeah.
They should be okay. People are okay most of the time.
Yeah, they're reasonable. They'll fight you within certain reasonable bounds. Biting is okay. Just not rolling around on the floor.
Biting's fine.
Is this the podcast you wanted?
I don't care. I'll talk about anything, mate.
Rolling around on the floor and biting.
Yeah. That's going to be the name of the podcast episode. What about yourself, Steve? What was the martial arts?
I think, I'm older than him, of course, but it was that time when Shotokan was it. Shotokan. Everybody was into Shotokan.
Yeah. It was a Liverpool thing, wasn't it?
You say that, but you see, I went to the Red Triangle. That's proper stuff, that, mate. So, what are you, dinosaur?
Red Triangle, was that was Shotokan?
That was the key area. That was the.
Was that Terry O'Neill's one? Was it?
It was Andy Sherry, wasn't it?
Okay.
But Andy Sherry,
Terry O'Neill as well.
all those,
Terry had his own club as well.
Okay.
Samurai. That was a good club.
That was good. Yeah,
it was a great club.
So same. 10 or 12 years of Shotokan. So very similar, dabbling a lot. Then started training with Geoff Thompson.
Yeah.
Which was more combative. You've missed out your combatives bit.
Oh, right, yeah, true.
Put that in.
Who did you do combatives with?
First, it was Gary Spiers that got me into it.
Yeah, so you trained with Gary Spiers through the Goji.
Did a what's name? Did it a 2-day seminar with Gary Spiers, and he introduced me to his mate Richie Herbert. Mm-hmm. So I used to go there that was about 18 months, 2 years.
So you did a 2-day seminar in Goji-Ryu with Gary Spears.
Yeah.
And you were doing Bunkai, presumably. You're doing applied karate to get
that was
into
it, applied karate, that was
because he was big on that, wasn't he?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, with Terry O'Neill, and there was 3 people who really wanted to train with: Terry O'Neill, Gary Spears, and Dennis Martin.
Oh, Dennis Martin, yeah.
And I ended up being able to do that. The last one to train with was Dennis Martin, going back 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Did another 2-day seminar with, combatives. And there was a guy called Simon.
Yes.
Simon Squires.
That's right.
Simon Squires. Yeah. I mean, it was my son that got me into it.
Yeah.
Because he was going for a while.
Yeah.
And he was saying, oh, yeah, this fella Simon, he's brilliant, And I ended up going with my son.
Yeah.
And, oh, God, it was hellish.
Was it, yeah?
Oh, it was 2 hours of, gruel.
Physical torture.
Oh, loved it.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. They were doing the suits drills.
That's right.
Weren't they?
Yeah, we'd do nearly 2 hours of whatever it was, pads and whatever, and then you finished off in a padded corner.
Yeah.
And then you'd be hassled. The whole idea was to put you under severe stress.
Yes.
Because that's the nearest you would get to an actual sort of
to a fight,
situation.
To adrenaline rush.
And then the padded man would come out.
Yeah.
And you would just
you could do what you wanted to.
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah. Did you?
It was lovely.
Oh yes. What? Did they have their own suits?
Yeah.
They made them, didn't they?
Yeah.
It started off with a motorbike helmet.
Yeah. Pads on
sponge
it.
on.
Yeah. Spongy helmet.
And then it went to about that big. The seat was about that big at the end. The head.
Yes. Yeah.
All taped up and everything.
I'd actually forgotten that. Yeah. And that's theirs, isn't it? The big silver head. Because they sold them, I think, in the end.
Who's Simon Squires?
I thought Simon Squires was. I could be wrong. But what I remember is that's how you recognised it was Simon Squires' club was the big, because the head became huge, didn't it? Big silver coloured head. I never got a chance to train with him. This is when I was doing the combative stuff as well. And
Lee Morrison was big into the padded suits.
Yeah.
Suited. But there's another name which I can't think of, but yeah. You must have seen that video, it's on YouTube, of Lee training with the padded suit men.
Probably.
Oh, you've got to watch it. It's just for the entertainment value.
Yeah.
And so this, Lee Morrison character, he's there, I think 3 or 4 padded suits coming at him.
Yeah.
And he's giving everything. Because the padded suit meant you could just punch as hard, kick as hard.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny because he's such a competent scrapper. You know, he holds his own and he butts one of them and he knocks him over. You know, he kicks another. He kicks a guy between the legs and the guy comes off the floor. But what I think is quite telling in a way about that little clip, it lasts for 3 or 4 minutes. And at the end, there's some people who've been the part of the event. 2 women come on and have to calm him down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's so high and hyper.
Yeah.
That they have to come on. And he knows what's going on.
Yeah,
he knows that that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
So he doesn't start lashing out at them. It's like, okay. And they go, come on, lay down.
Yeah. But he's super hyped.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's got himself into that real aggressive situation.
That's good. It's good. It's a lot of most martial arts traditionally just misses that side of things.
Yeah.
The adrenal preparation and the chaos preparation. And, you know, well, we know from sparring, you can kid yourself about where your cardio level's up to, but you start moving around properly at speed and with force for anything longer than 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
You breathe. Oh, yeah.
It's horrendous.
It was a particularly grueling one. Well, it was for me. I don't know about yourself. Today.
Yeah, they all are in different ways and different things. But I think that there's something that's, I think, come out of like, both of us in a way is, well, I don't know if we didn't go down the sporting route so much as the self-defense.
Yeah.
It was just something to have as a self-defense. It's enjoyable. For some primitive reason, it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
And you tend to find the people that go to those sort of events, you know, they're all good lads, aren't they? If there's a bully or anybody in there, they soon get weeded out.
Don't
they do. So you get decent guys who can give and take and you have a laugh and joke with. But, you know, I do sometimes wonder why we do it, you know.
Well, I know why I do, because anything else, it doesn't hold my attention.
You're bored.
Football, any other sport.
Exactly.
Like, this was the only thing where I could go in for an hour, give it 100%.
Yeah.
And the world stopped.
Yes.
You know, and then you come out and you, wow. You know?
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of research being done on this. Maybe you've come across some, Rich, but I'm, and this is like going to sound so old-fashioned, but I think the demise of boys' boxing clubs was a terrible thing for society. You know,
oh, definitely. Well, I think like
we used to go to the boxing club. You'd learn discipline. You'd get fit. You'd sort out any aggression that you needed to, and it just made for a better society. You know, in some ways, it's terrible.
It's easy for modern civilized society to accept a woman for the animal that she is, and for the tendencies that a woman is, but it's not. Women are animals, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
And they should be treated as animals. And
I thought I just missed 10 minutes. of the talk.
rounded up in pens. But it's hard for modern culture to accept man for the animal that a man is. Like there's a thing that a woman is. There's a thing that a man is, but the thing that a man is intrinsically sort of not civilized. We've permitted civilization to occur, and we protect civilization to continue through violence. But violence is uncivilized.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I get that. I mean, there's a lot to discuss around it, but I do. Yeah. I think that's sort of. And there's another cliche which I think's true. When you do some training like this, it sort of makes you less inclined to violence in the
world. Well, it's the training. What the evolutionary biologists would say is that's a good environmental match to what you're evolved to, which is to do a bit of fighting and to wrestle around a bit and punch each other a little bit and have that camaraderie and get a good sweat on.
That's a good one.
That's what you're evolved for. So that's a good evolutionary match. Going and sitting in an office for 8 hours a day for months at a time is not a good evolutionary match. Exactly. And what that can lead to is you going out the weekend, getting pissed and stamping on somebody's head. So it's, I think we still haven't, nowhere near close to resolving that sort of incongruence in that particular issue.
Well, you think about the time we've been on the planet, we've been a lot longer in the mindset where there was some violent activity. A lot longer.
Yeah.
We're only as sophisticated. I mean, we're not, are we? The world's on fire at the moment.
Yeah. Well, we don't like it. I think one of the problems is we're not evolved to this level of civilization, and we really don't like it.
Okay,
it's quite uncomfortable for us. But we can't Which is one thing, and that's one level of torture. But the second level of torture is you can't say that. We're in the cities of lights that we've been dreaming for thousands of years. Now we have all the food. It can be dry. You can have the nice heating on. You never have to be outside in the freezing cold worrying a cat's going to eat your foot. Usually. Okay. Unless it's a particularly difficult weekend.
There's some places around here you would.
I wouldn't sleep outside. And so now we can't complain. Like, what can you say? It's too comfortable. It's too nice. I mean, that's insane. So it's quite a double bind that we've put ourselves into, I think. But it's good to do martial arts. It's good to get together. And for goals as well. There's plenty of goals out there who have that in them. And that needs to be expressed. If you're a goal with that thing in you, get it out of you. Get in there and do some sparring, or at least hit some pads.
Exactly. Well, then I just realised to pick up again. I came across this thing called Krav Maga.
This thing
called
Krav Maga.
Yeah, Krav Maga. Which
did you ever learn any Hebrew when you were doing Krav Maga?
Yeah.
What did you learn?
Krav Maga.
Fucking hell.
Hebrew for how?
I can't even. I set that up.
Define any.
Yes, I just told you. Krav Maga. What does Krav Maga mean?
I don't know. Empty hand, or is that karate?
No, I think it's something like it's actually quite cool in English. It's something like combative contact.
You might be right.
Go on, Jacob. Pull that up, Jamie.
Oh, is he going to pull it up? Okay.
What's the Hebrew Krav Maga? How does that translate?
You're right.
Combative contact. Yeah, which is a cool name, that, isn't it? So,
that's
tell us about your Krav.
Krav is practice. Yes, there's military and all the rest of it, but it tends to be practiced more for civilian self-defense.
Right.
So it is self-defense. It's not a sport.
Yeah.
I know it says contact combat. It's not a sport. There's no rules, and actually, some of the things which were quite difficult to train the guys when they come along was a lot of it is like avoid it. Yeah. Situational awareness. Be aware of where you're going. Don't go there.
Yeah.
De-escalate. But then if you feel, and you get that point in time when you feel that the threat's there and it's not going to go away, then the physical ability to deal with it kicks in. And there is a final stage, which is don't stay there.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about, I was talking to one of the young guys today in boxing. Krav Maga came up and he didn't know anything about it. And we were talking about quickly what it was about. And something that disables the attacker so that you can make good your escape. It's not about just getting into a scrap. It's about avoiding a scrap. But sometimes if it's that point at which you've got to make that decision, right now my life is in danger.
Yeah, yeah.
And no more pleading or de-escalating or phone responding will do.
Yes.
Boom. You've got to do it and then get out the way.
Yeah.
Go home. You know?
How long were you doing Krav for?
I did Krav for at least 10 years. Stopped counting because lockdown, sort of like a lot of things, lockdown brought a bit of an end to that. We lost our training facilities and it's still going. I've backed away a lot now. I used to be an instructor. I don't instruct. Still turn up at the club every now and again.
Yeah.
So you could, I suppose we've got another 2 years there, 12 years. Sort of like,
12 years, yeah.
Yeah.
And I know with your club, they're Romanian. You go to Romania to train?
Oh, yeah. That's one of the lads who was training today in the Thompson therapy. He's a Romanian guy, so we were talking about that. So the guy who owns the club is from Romania.
Right.
And in its heyday, before lockdown hit so hard, we would go to Romania and do training. There's nothing special about training Krav in Romania except just a nice
drink blood every once in a while.
Absolutely. We go and see the castle and all the rest of it. Yeah, then do a bit of training outside.
Yeah, it's actually Transylvania you go to. I remember you saying to me. Yeah. That particular, which I believe is I've never been to that part of Romania. I've only been to Cluj.
Okay, well, it's not far.
It's not far though, is it? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, and I believe it's beautiful. Transylvania.
Of course it is. Fabulous. Maybe other parts of Europe are just as nice, but it's like, as you'd expect, hilly, wooded mountainsides, streams, lakes. It's a beautiful place. Beautiful place.
The nice thing about that is whenever I meet Romanians and we get onto talking about different places in Romania, when they talk about Transylvania, they're always they always go a bit misty-eyed, like it's the most beautiful place on earth. The fruit and the vegetables that grow there, they have more nutrients in.
Oh, really?
It's super healthy.
Okay.
Blah, blah. They obviously very, very proud of the countryside itself. Like,
well, one little thing, because I've gone with Adrian, who's the owner. I've been to visit his family, so you get a behind the scenes, and he's from outside of the city. And here's the thing: every one of these small farms, they're not massive, they're small farms, but every single one of them has got plum trees growing in the front side garden.
I have a feeling I know where this is going. Yeah, go on.
And they all have some sort of little building outside, and in which is the still where they make. I forgot it. What's it called?
Slivovica.
No, it's not Slivovica, but it's like that. Begins with a P. It's. I don't know why we're worried about fuel shortage once they're making, because we can use that.
The Slivovica, there's rakia. It's not rakia, but they have rakia in
P.
Oh, Slivovica, rakia. I mean, I think I've had
rakia.
Yeah,
that's makes you fall over. You know, make me fall over.
I don't know why people. I had the last time I was in Slovakia, I was representing the UK. You know, I don't drink and I don't smoke, but they had me drinking and smoking because I was representing the UK. Show no weakness, just sit and smoke and drink like men.
I'll have a pint of that.
Well, and I can only say, what can I say? Dobre, which means good, and samozrejme, which means of course. And they knew I didn't speak Slovakian, but as the fellas I was with got more and more drunk, and they were speaking more and more, they started to think I could understand them, because I was just sat there going, oh, dobre, samozrejme. Just blah, blah, blah. I don't have a fucking clue what you're saying. Smoking makes you hang. Have you ever smoked?
No.
There's an alcohol hangover, and then there's a smoking hangover. Flipping heck. I was not well the next day.
I've got a total of never even.
No, I don't know why I've ever done it in my life. It's awful. It absolutely stinks, and you feel
Palinka,
la la la.
Got there.
So did you have a bit of plum palinka?
It's like a rum brandy. It's fabulous.
It sounds nice, doesn't it?
It's fabulous. But because it's homemade, it's like 80-90% proof, so you got to water it down. But it's cultural as well. It's a very cultural thing. They have it. They'll, in the country, for no reason, not because it's like they're getting pissed or anything, but they'll have a shop for breakfast.
Yeah, and if you have a little cold, palinka. If you have a little cough, palinka. You can't sleep, palinka. Can't wake up.
Do you like palinka?
Just everything. It was the same in Bosnia. Rakia for everything. Oh, you have problem. Put ginger inside of rakia. Drink. Can't all be garlic, ginger, and rakia. It can't be the solution to everything. But yes, that's what it became. So how many times have you been to?
I've been to five times, I think, 5-6 times.
Yeah.
We did the other good place, because in the nature of that sort of thing, we also went to Czechoslovakia.
Yeah,
doesn't exist now.
Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and other countries that have long since gone.
At least it's sort of.
We'll know the next one to go. Steve's going to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you go?
Where to go? No, sorry. Where we should go? Prague.
Just
outside Prague, for shooting type things.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
But I see a lot of people, when you say that, would normally, UK people would think, oh yeah, like stag night shooting.
Yeah.
Shooting off of it. These were like 4 days at a time. So the 3 guys who ran it, one had been a colonel in the Foreign Legion.
Yeah.
One had been a very senior guy in the French military, and he wrote the handbook on small arms army, small arms handling in the army for the French, which was then used by the Italians. So
a guy who was training you had written the instruction manual for the French army,
which is still used today.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, these were top guys. These were top guys, and the first day you think, turn up, right? Let's have a look at these bang 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 guns. First day was all about safety. Didn't fire a shot.
Yeah,
all day.
Yeah,
about how to take a Glock apart, load it, check it, all the rest of it, hand it over, the protocols for handing a gun to somebody. It was amazing stuff. And you think, how boring is it? And then as day 2, 3, and 4, you start to realise how useful day 1 was.
Yeah.
When somebody picks up a gun, you go, put it down, for God's sake.
Yeah.
Because people forget that, you say, I'm not pointing at you. No, but you're pointing at him. all right, he's 100 yards away. I'll still hit him.
Yeah, it could still hit him. I told you, didn't I? America was the opposite. When I went to I've been the gun range in California twice.
Yeah.
And it's literally, it's as hillbilly as you could possibly imagine. You get handed a green basket each.
Yeah.
You put the guns you want, you walk around, you put the guns you want in, you put the ammo in.
Yeah.
And I went to the desk. I was with an American lad and he'd never been before. And I think he had the same expectation as me, which is like, we'll go to the desk and then they're going to give us a half an hour lecture and what. Nope. There's your ear protectors. Go to the range.
Oh, crikey.
So we open these boxes, we're shaking hands. Everybody around us is firing off.
Yeah.
We just were like, I remember from the cadets how you'd load an SA-80.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I suppose it's just a smaller version of that. Load the magazine, click it in. I was like, is nobody going to, these are live rounds. Nothing.
Really?
No training. Nothing. And you just pop off. We had a combat shotgun. We had a 357 revolver. The huge Dirty Harry style things.
Didn't you put that on YouTube?
I did.
I remember you saying
bruised my hand. Bruised my hand.
Yeah.
We were just firing it one at a time. Just cock it, fire it, goes straight up to the ceiling and cracks you in the palm of your hand. Powerful stuff. But
these guys were really good on that. Loads of protocol.
Yeah.
Even the protocol for drawing the pistol.
Yes.
Drawing it and holding it.
Yes.
You hold it in a certain way.
Yes.
That's, there'd be a state. You don't just point it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I should actually remember them because but there's things like you never point a weapon at something that you don't intend to destroy.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
So just got to realize that you never point. There's no, and if you are, they would come from a military and police point of view.
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you talk about America because we see pictures of Americans and the police point the weapon at the bad guy.
Yes.
Well, these guys would say that's never the case. You
don't do it.
It would be pointing at the floor.
So you'd be down until you've decided to shoot.
You've got another stage then, which is to lift it up. And at that stage, you have to have intent to destroy.
Wow.
And it's just all those little protocol things, which I like that. I like the theoretical aspect
and
of it.
And as we're sat here now, we assume that every single police department across America has the same level of training because why wouldn't they? They're actually likely to be firing at real humans and be fired back at.
Yes.
And yet, we know that that's unfortunately not the case.
I know.
We don't know because it's different from different police departments have different levels of training, which is scary, really, to think that they wouldn't be trained. That one thing that you just said, that should be standard operational procedure for every police department everywhere in the world.
I think so. Even if massive danger, you're gonna you're cutting out that step, but you're mentally not cutting it out. You draw it, hold it, point it at the floor, issue your command, point it. You don't have time to do that.
The difference between that and that is not.
But you've got to. I think you should. It's not a cowboy time. It's not.
Quick draw, McGraw.
You ready? Come on then.
Yeah, something that gives an extra level of reservation to fire. And I obviously I worked majorly. Me and Jacob were discussing this before. Majorly with Americans, and you guys are working with Americans now, right through Spartan Life Coach, which is a surprise to most people. I would say it's 80%. Is it maybe 90?
Absolutely,
80 or 90%.
Absolutely, a lot of them. Yeah.
Same with Street Fight Secrets. So I'd be talking with law enforcement officers and trainers and the air marshal's trainers as well. And I heard all the counter arguments, like you've got to realize how many officers get shot, how frightened they can be going in. And I'm like, I absolutely understand all of that. But you shoot someone 4 or 5 times with a Glock is easy to do. If you fired it, it just goes pop, pop, pop. Super ergonomic, really easy to do. That's somebody dead and your life potentially totally changed. So if we could just have a little extra bit of something that breaks the circuit from draw and shoot.
That's a good way. That's a good phrase. Breaks the circuit a bit.
Yeah.
Or at least puts controls into the circuits.
Yes.
But it was great. It was really good. That span out, if you like, of the Krav Maga because it had that sort of military sort of thing about it. But that was good in terms of. And who can ever say? But we hope we're never going to need to use those sort of things.
Touch wood.
I know.
You never know.
Touch metal.
I know.
Did you see that American movie Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze where the Russians came?
That's an old one. It's in the 80s.
Yeah, the 80s. Have you not seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Russians land on American soil, and there's American
Alaska,
insurgents that resistant. They came through Alaska. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's not a bad movie. You know, they're the Wolverines.
Oh, God. See, that's not beyond the realms of possibility.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility now.
Nothing is now, really.
Yeah,
is it?
nothing. Everything's up for grabs.
You know.
Yeah.
Which is a good segue for me to talk about psychology and psychotherapy. I wanted to ask. Obviously, there's no PhDs in the room.
You say?
You're not a PhD.
Well,
in Guinness, maybe. In Irish folk.
How rude.
Racist, almost. The assumption that as an Irishman, you'd just be studying Guinness. But
is it because I was Irish?
Is it because I was Irish? But you do love Guinness.
I'm sort of enjoying it.
I resent the accusation.
Love.
What do you mean, love?
Yeah, what do you mean,
What do you mean? I know where you live.
I'm telling you.
I know, God, that's a threatening... it's like when somebody with a Northern Irish accent says to you, have a good day.
Yeah.
It's fine. When they say, enjoy your next 24 hours. Well, it's a totally different thing.
Puts a whole spin on things.
Why has it got a limit on it? There's a girl I used to work with from, she was from the north coast of Northern Ireland, not far from here. We used to do...
North coast of Northern Ireland.
The north coast of Northern Ireland. Her name was Bev, and I used to work in offices just up the road in an industrial estate here. And I'd say to her, Bev, I'm going to the shop. Do you want anything? And she'd go, yeah, curly whirly. I go, what the fuck is that? Do you mean a curly whirly? Yeah. Curly whirly. Oh, the shit we would give her. How now, brown cow? So what the fuck am I on about? Oh yeah, psychology. How did we get here?
Yeah.
One of the things that I hear a lot is because you're not a qualified psychotherapist, you shouldn't be talking about this subject. You shouldn't be dealing with clients around this subject. Yeah. I have my thoughts on that before I launch into a tirade. What do you think of that sort of position that says you shouldn't really be talking to clients unless you're a psychotherapist?
I don't think Teddy should be.
And I don't know by mine.
Yeah, I know. Come on. Let's the elephant in the room.
You say put away. It depends how. I mean, again, how am I going to put this?
Just start.
Okay, I'll start.
Just go for it.
Well, I don't think it's the qualification as much. I think it's the experience that you've had. You know what I mean? 10, 15, 20 years of experience working with people with trauma.
Yeah.
You know, my personal opinion is, if you got your head screwed on and you know what you're doing, that's more valuable than someone who's got a PhD in psychology or whatever it might be, who's just got, is going with that model. Well, I mean, we were talking about it this afternoon, this morning. The original brief was sort of the dangers and limitations of psychology.
Yes.
And psychology isn't psychology is not a thing. It's a school of thought, isn't it? It's almost a science, if you like.
I'm actually would be a pain. I find it difficult to define what psychology is and isn't.
Well, some say it's not a science. Some say it is a science. But ology is school, isn't it?
Yeah, study of yeah.
Now there are models in psychology. Now once you start believing those models are real, and you start trying to fit your client into those models,
yes,
and when they don't fit, you go, well, it's your fault.
You've got a resistant client here.
You
won't get in the model properly.
Yeah. It's like the Fisher-Price squares and triangles. Hang on. Yeah. That's when the problems start. But if you've got if you're multidisciplined, then as a change agent, you should be able to go, okay, well, what does this person need?
Right.
To
what
get
does
them
the
from
human in front of me
where
need?
they are? Absolutely, yeah. There's where they are. There's where they want. That's how they want to be. What do I need to do in order to get this person to go from there to there?
Yeah. Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I haven't said that all session.
Does this make sense?
Does this make
sense?
sense?
Have you got an example?
Don't for God's sake.
Yeah. Well, I have got a few examples.
Oh, I'm only messing.
Now I'm off. Now you started it. We all know, the three of us know, how many times have we had people come to us who've been through the normal, counselling, psychotherapists, all that. and nothing's happened. I'm sick of going over the same thing over and over and over again.
Which is the premise of my tirade, which I'll hold back.
Okay.
I won't get into that just yet. What do you think about this, Steve?
See, I don't have a qualification in psychology. Got a qualification in coaching, which, by the way, is relatively rare.
Yeah.
These days. Well,
A proper one.
I mean, ILM level 7, which
It's master level,
might be equivalent to a PhD, actually. But let's not argue the fine points. No. So I'll answer it this way. When we started working with you, Richard, you already had material.
Yeah.
And so any, worries, any thoughts I might have had about, well, I'm not a psychiatrist. So I don't have to be.
Yeah.
I'm a coach.
Yeah.
And my job is to help people navigate Richard's material.
That's it.
And of course, I got to know the material. I thought, well, we spent time at the beginning, didn't we? We rehearsed it, we went over it, we understood it.
Yeah.
And then picking up again on Terry's point, as you become more experienced, and in fact, in a way, there's a strong thing happening there, and that is, I can't tell a client what to do.
Yeah.
I can't be directive.
Yeah.
About what they want to do. Yeah.
You can't do it.
But even academically, if that's
functionally,
I can't tell them which button to push because I don't know. What I can say is, what's Richard asking you to do next, and what will happen when you do that, and what may be preventing you from doing what Richard's asking. That sort of coach.
We brought our own experience to it.
We brought the coaching envelope, if you like.
Let me pull you up on that there.
No.
You could tell people what to do.
Oh, okay.
You're actually making a choice not to.
Exactly.
Why?
Well, because my interpretation, my understanding, the whole thing about coaching is my style of coaching is non-directive.
Right.
Not for me to tell the client, to direct them.
Yes.
Now, there's little times when you have to give them a nudge.
Yeah.
But generally speaking...
Option one's probably going to keep you out of prison.
No, you're wrong there. Try again. So what are you going to do? No, I wouldn't do that.
No, I wouldn't do that. You've got two choices. Option one, no.
No, something more sensible. Go on.
Yeah.
Quietly direct.
And what are you thinking of doing next?
Okay, you're picking up on my non-verbal communications here. That's going to suck.
Yeah. So that was always my, and myself and a colleague years ago ran coaching training courses, ILM, which is in the UK is probably the best quality of accreditation, Institute of Leadership and Management. It's got a bit of a corporate leaning, but it's a quality mark, if you like.
Yeah.
ILM. And we were very strong on that. We ran it for about 5 years, and you got classes rotating and coming through. And that was one of the things we were always keen on picking up, was when, you might talk about something and then split people into pairs and say, right, have a little practice and we'll walk around. If you've got any questions, ask us, and we'd watch what they do, a little bit of role play with each other. And you'd heard somebody pretending to be the client and they're telling the coach something. And the coach go, yeah, I know what you mean. Do you know what you should do? You go, ooh. Did you not listen to it?
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating a little bit to make that point. So my internals were always not for me to tell you what to do, me for keep you on track, keep you making good choices, challenge you a little bit. Sometimes the challenging should be a little bit tough.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people need a bit of a tough challenge. You've got to read the person and get an idea how they're going to respond and all the rest of it. But never really 100% is directing them and telling them what to do. Now, I've got voices in my head now saying, yes, you did.
Stop lying.
I know.
Come on.
There are times when you sneak it in, don't you? And you'll say, okay, well, listen, before now and the next time we meet, what I want you to do is go over the material again.
That's behavioural tasking.
It is.
Homework.
It's tasking. It's tasking.
You're not saying don't marry Brian or you've got to divorce Brian. You're not. It's not.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Terry?
From my point of view, it's non-directive.
Yeah.
And until, because sometimes you do come across people who are absolutely, they've got nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just out of choice. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now and again, I will say, okay, do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
For example.
In their lives, you mean?
For example, right? There are certain instances where I've actually told someone you've got to go no contact. No, this is.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
Where they've been in such a state.
Yes, which absolutely is directive, and that's directive about a life choice. I've just fallen short of doing that, but I've used sophistry to get around. Something like, can you see the terrible consequences that might befall you if you chose to not go no contact now? But pretty much said on the verge of it.
Because the other thing that sneaks into that conversation as well is we are as in a role, and we're wearing a white coat. We're an expert as perceived. So to say do something has a little bit of extra
weight.
That's right. To it.
Well, it's almost, for me, it's almost like breaking the boundary between coaching and running a cult.
Okay.
Like we can't, two things, like it would be incredibly arrogant of me to tell somebody how to run their lives, as if I know how to run my own.
Absolutely.
And the second thing is that it's going to generate dependency. That's parent-child, isn't it?
It is exactly
now
right.
I'm daddy, and you're going to attach to me as a father figure in a really sick way.
Yeah.
Instead of individuating and being your own person, you're gonna get stuck on this coaching process.
That opens up a lot, and I'm sort of taken back into that time when we used to do a lot of training on this. Yeah, the white coat syndrome. Be careful, the dependency, and we cannot name any names, but we know people in the coaching area who
foster it.
Well, their business model is dependency.
Is it really? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So they'll be very directive.
Yeah, to get people to, vulnerable people to really,
very prescriptive and directive.
I've had comments again, just let me sanitize things and check things here, but I've had people say to me, such and such, oh yeah, he's my coach. No, now you know he's a man. He's my coach, he's my rock, I've been with him for years. I think, wow, I don't want to be anybody's coach for years.
Yeah, that's a failure.
And I don't want them to be their rock.
Yeah, that's a priest or some other religious role, I think.
But even you hear that and you think, well, okay, it's a behaviour I don't like, but it's good because it lets you know where your boundaries are.
Yes.
Just proves, okay, I work this side of that one.
I think people who do that as well are putting themselves in a very questionable position legally. I think you're very vulnerable. You start doing things like, because the word cult will get used, you're emotionally vulnerable and somebody's told you, say major life decisions, don't buy a house there, buy a house here, don't marry him, marry this. What could the consequences of that be? I mean, it's just not wise, is it? It's not a smart maneuver to be making. The thing about the psychotherapy thing, when it comes up, when anybody is like, oh, you don't have a PhD, you don't have a master's, you're not this, you're not that. I'm like, okay, are you saying that every psychotherapist and counsellor that's out there is brilliant? Yeah. Are you saying they're doing a great job? Are you saying that...
We know from personal experience that's not the case.
Yeah, we do.
Are we shoving our way into an area that's perfectly well covered by the psychotherapists and counsellors, and it just doesn't need us? We're grifters, basically, like bottom feeders. No, we're in crisis. The mental health world is in crisis. No, there are great psychotherapists, there are crap psychotherapists, counsellors, whatever. But the idea that because you've got a PhD or because you've got this degree or this qualification, or even if you're an MD and you're a psychiatrist, that therefore you can help everybody with PTSD is beyond fucking absurd. There's nothing that backs that notion.
Yeah.
They're struggling because it's hard. It's a hard puzzle to solve.
It goes back to that experience thing as well. You can be fresh out of university with a PhD in psychology.
Yeah.
But actually brings up something else. Your ability to communicate and help someone doesn't necessarily mean you have that.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what they're doing with them in university.
There's a whole lot of research that indicates that it's not actually the model that's the successful. It's the client, coach relationship,
the rapport,
that's
the trust.
Rapport, the trust. Yeah. And it goes a long way. On some level, that person is saying, am I safe with him or am I safe with her?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, it doesn't matter what you've got.
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. It's unlikely to happen.
100% agree. I'm not into this new fashionable cult of vulnerability thing where being vulnerable for its own sake is somehow restorative. I think that's bollocks. I think Brene Brown did a great TED talk and it went viral. Yeah. And I think people mistook what she was saying and they over applied it. Yeah. Vulnerability in and of itself is pH neutral. It's neither here nor there. Yeah. In the therapeutic space, in that coaching space, there are points where there has to be vulnerability for you to make real, if you want to make real progress. We're not just doing goal setting here. Yeah. We're not just doing career changing. We're trying to talk you through things that relate to, we'll come back to childhood trauma, things that relate to you being harmed in the most vulnerable spaces yourself. There you do need that trust and that sense of safety, don't you? And not everybody can foster that. Just because you got a degree doesn't mean you know how to be warm with another human.
No, indeed.
No,
they're not trained for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a newly fashioned psychiatrist. She'd just been plopped out of the system that I met in London 5-6 years ago. And we got chatting and we were in a bar. And she said, I'm on my, what do doctors do where they work in a hospital? What's it called?
Rotation.
Intern?
Internship. Or
sort of.
Yeah, she was doing rotations as an internship. And she said, I'm working with mentally ill people, as she should be, in a refuge in London. And she said, it's making me sick.
Oh.
And I said, well, it will do. Were you not trained for this? And she said, no. I said, do you know about secondary trauma and the fact that PTSD is contagious? She said, no. I said, have you ever heard of borderline personality disorder? She said, no.
Really?
She must have done. There's no way as a psychiatrist, she can't have been trained in secondhand trauma, can't have been trained in the notion of PTSD being contagious and doesn't know BPD. But she's been through their sausage machine, been plopped out the other side. Yeah. Maybe she just crammed for her exams. She's qualified. She got through. She is a trainee psychiatrist and she'll get there. But she rocks up to the face-to-face interaction with people who are mentally ill. And not one adult has trained her for that. Yeah. That hands-on moments. They've given her the books, they've given her the terminology, they've given her the exams. But nobody said, when you're around, I think it was people who were, what's the politically correct term for homeless? People who are, whatever, they're of no fixed abode with... Sorry? Rough sleepers, let's say, with drug addiction problems. It's pretty, well, we've all done it or interacted. It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
And she just wasn't ready for that. Like, it's an emotionally disturbing experience. And she claimed nobody had trained her for it.
Wow.
And now she was starting to have psychological problems. She was only 2 weeks in. 2 weeks into 2 years of her internship, and she was already struggling. So I always, when I'm hit with this, I'm like, there's a naivety here. I don't think the qualifications mean what you think they mean. I don't think the white coat, as you mentioned before, is magic. It's not a wizard's robe.
It's not.
It means that somebody's got a certain level of education, a certain level of intelligence, certain obsessive ability, but not.
I think there's also a level of empire protecting as well.
I 100% agree with
you. I've been to school, I've been to university for so many years. How can you come in, when really, if you think about it, 20 odd years.
Yeah.
Of learning this stuff.
Yeah. PhD's impressive. It's 5 years, and you did your degree before that of 2. But there's 20 years and thousands of hours of hands-on client experience.
An analogy might be going through, taking up martial arts and doing maybe any whatever. I'll pick Shotokan as an example. Right. And just training in the dojo for years. Yeah. And then when you go out and collide with the outside world, it's a totally different, because it's people there who've never done martial art in life.
They don't know how to attack you properly.
Exactly, No, step back again. Come on. There are people out there who would attack a buzzsaw.
Yeah.
They're that mad.
Yes. Yeah.
And they wouldn't, you might have a black belt, but how are you going to work with that?
Yes.
That was the whole point of the combative training.
Right.
To get that nearest you can to that adrenaline dump where you're shaking and because then that's when you've got to operate.
Yeah.
Interesting, using that example of homeless people, vulnerable homeless people. Right. Our boxing coach on a Thursday.
Yes.
Tony.
You could say his name. He's going to be interviewed. Tony Moran,
yeah. Superb, natural combative bloke, isn't he? Did karate and kickboxing and boxing and MMA, and his whole life's been like that. Yeah. When I first met Tony 20 years ago, he was managing a homeless shelter.
Yes.
And we struck up a bit of a friendship. He'd come to a seminar I was running at the time about coaching, and he was quite interested and curious, and so we got to talking. And I got then, for some years, used to go into the homeless centre and do nothing more than sit in the room and talk to the lads and absorb stuff. Now, Tony asked me to do it because he thought I could sort of help with some of the things, but it wasn't like grabbing them by the throat and coaching them. You must get back onto the straight and narrow. It was just listening, and I was like, I can remember more the feeling walking out of there thinking, my God, that world, people live in that world.
Yes.
I'm going home now to have a cup of tea and put the telly on. And those poor lads, men and women. But then you get to understand how resilient they are. They're struggling with stuff, but I think a lot of people would I be able to do? Maybe I would, but it'd be a tough call to deal with it. So I spent a lot of time just absorbing their language, their behaviors, their thoughts. Some of it did not sit well with me at all because we were from different worlds. So then when I did start working with some homeless people, and I worked with an organisation, I think it's gone now because that's Business Action on Homelessness. And I was doing some coaching with those guys in Manchester. And you realise, just as you're saying it, I only know this because I've spent a few years in the company of people who this is their reality on a daily basis. So I'm trying to tell people how to go out and help them, coach them. And you feel like saying, but listen, it's going to be hard for you because you don't really know what they've got to do. We think we do.
You don't.
But we don't.
I had a family member who joined the police, and he lasted 6 months. And I wasn't surprised. He went to work in North Wales. And I've got police in the family. I tried to join the police myself. And I think the gap between what we think policing is, there are criminals and then they break the law and then the police are called and you go and you arrest those criminals. And he wasn't ready for that. What you're talking about, there's a chaos.
There is a chaos.
And there's a level of society that we just don't interact with normally. And they're not. It's got way more to do with mental illness than criminality. They are criminals, but they're not gangsters. They're not they're not intentionally going, how do we mastermind?
No, it's coping at times.
Yeah, it's just coping.
Got to be criminal to cope at times.
And this isn't, I'm not adopting that stupid left-wing idea that everybody's a victim and nobody has response. Absolutely not. But what I'm saying is it's not what you think. It's actually just much more about dealing with people on the daily who are in chaos. They have totally chaotic lives.
So that little bit sort of backs up about, Terry's been quite keen on saying our experience. Yeah, it is. You don't sometimes, listen, you don't know your own experience sometimes. You just don't know. You just
no.
You go through something that was quite accidental that I met Tony and I went through that. And then, but it gave me lots of experience. And you say, dealing with CPTSD, clients and the other programs, we build up a level of experience that sometimes I don't think the PhD... We shouldn't pick on PhDs, but just to use that as a label.
Any qualified. It's the. I spoke to a guy called Ed Dutton recently who has a PhD, and he called. Jacob remembers that was a funny podcast. He has a PhD, but he calls people like this credentialist twats.
Okay. That will avoid the credentialist twats.
Yes, the credentialist twats. Credentialist twats. And he said,
I was happy with the first word.
He was like, just ignore them. They're basically, this is how he talks. They're basically just credentialist twats.
Really?
And it's snobbery and it's territorialism, as you say. It's a kind of narcissism.
Okay.
And I'm like, well, if you guys were doing an amazing job, I would give you your credit and I'd back away. I'd go and teach internet marketing or dating or something. I wouldn't do this because it's not easy. It's not easy, but I can see people dropping off the cliff every fucking day because there's no assistance for them because they go to, say in the UK, they go to somebody who's been speedily trained in CBT to try and deal with the onslaught of mentally ill people that we're nowhere close to handling. And I've got people who come back to me with stories. I told you, didn't I? Somebody close to me loses a family member, is grieving terribly, and he's given a computer program to interact with. Not even a hastily trained CBT counselor of age 24, a fucking computer program. And he's, suicidal ideation. This is all we've got for you, mate. Wow. Talk to an algorithm. And So I live with that knowledge, and the homelessness, the drug addiction, everything else. And then I get people coming to me and going, well, you shouldn't be talking about this. You're not qualified. I'm like, if you can talk and help people a little bit at this point where we are, you're as qualified as we need. This is not a war we're winning.
No.
We're really on the back foot with the state of mental health.
Sometimes just the talking, isn't it? We know this. Well, it's not.
I was just going to say before, you picked up on the point of listening.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just keeping your mouth shut.
Yeah.
And listening.
Give them
intent.
a damn good listening to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
You know,
it is.
I don't know how many times
Proper listening to.
one of the, especially during the CPTSD days, how many people would say, it's the validation.
Yeah.
For the first time, someone's actually sat and listened and believed.
Yes, because the experience of narcissistic abuse and CPTSD is so weird and so particular that if the person hasn't been through it, through no fault of their own, they're likely to think you're talking shite. Yeah. They're likely to think you're exaggerating or making it up. And if you know not,
get over it.
Yeah, get over it.
Yeah.
It can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Your dad wouldn't have really said that to you. Yeah, just go for a walk.
Funnily enough, we talked earlier on about our background, and I said when I first got into coaching and qualified as a coach, it was corporate work I was doing because I'd come from corporate, so my leads, my contacts were all back there. And it worked well, and that was a comment that would be made fairly frequently about it's just good to talk and have somebody listen.
Yes.
Now I'm talking about people who you'd be impressed by.
Yes.
Chief execs of banks and things you'd be impressed by, and for them to say that, and this is experience. So that's 20 odd years ago because this is experience. And me then driving home or going home and thinking, reflecting from what did I get out of that session and all the rest of it, thinking, that's so valuable that they said that they actually. And of course, the other thing, and we've talked about this before, if you just take that, talking out loud, you can carry something round in your head, a thought, good or bad. When you've got to tell it to another human being, you've got to put something wrap around. You've got to give it structure, syntax, use words.
Yes.
Then you've got to make your mouth make the noises. So all of a sudden, that idle thought has now got a lot of attention on it to come out. And it comes out into the world to another human being.
Yeah.
And guess what happens? You hear it as well.
It's feedback to yourself.
Yeah. And how many times in coaching or just in general life people say,
"What have we done it?"
Oh, wait a minute. I realise what I've said now.
Yeah.
That's why I always say to people, form a question.
Yes,
don't
I know.
Don't just word salad me and then end it with, what do you think?
Yeah.
Form a question.
To form the question, that discipline of forming the question.
Make the question.
Exactly.
And then you listen to it. You're not as weak as you think.
Exactly.
You're just allowing yourself to think in a sloppy way.
Exactly.
So form a question, have it end in a question mark.
Yes.
Don't make it a statement with, what do you think? Make a question. And then if you force people to actually do that, a good 30 to 40% of the questions dry up.
They do.
Because they go, oh yeah, that's...
The quality of the question increases.
No, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh God, what am I going to do about this? Or what's gone wrong is, what do we need to do?
Yes.
What do we need? What do we need?
The quality of the question defines the quality of the answers you get.
Exactly.
Anthony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, 1991. Oh yeah. That was a great book, that.
He took that off me,
Did he?
Yeah.
Fucking sue him, Terry.
Oh,
sue him, lad.
Go ahead, lad. Go ahead.
And the firewalk.
But not the moonwalk.
Ow, 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 ow.
So I hear it a lot, and I kind of think, if you guys were doing so, you guys on the other side of the fence, not that they're on the other side of the fence, we should all be on the same team.
Yeah.
If you're doing such a great job, we'd be redundant. Yeah. But as you said, and I know you've experienced, some of our clients are 3 counsellors deep, 3 psychotherapists deep, and the rest sometimes.
Oh, God, aye.
And we've had horror stories of stuff that qualified psychotherapists have said to people.
We talked about it again today.
We
were talking about the similar thing, weren't we, at lunch? We've just been for lunch before we came here. We've had people say to us things like, I've been seeing my therapist for 7 years now. I see him once a month for 7 years. Fucking hell, no.
Yeah.
And, you got to,
money.
Again,
fucking hell.
Because we're professional.
You don't say fucking hell, You're getting mugged off there, lad.
You do, in your head.
In your head, you do.
Way.
Yeah.
Fuck 'em off.
Then you've got to find, what words can I now say?
That's an interesting amount of time to have been spending all that money.
And the other example, we've bounced around before. We were saying about sometimes when a client will say, well, because they'll sometimes be seeing a therapist and seeing us. And of course, part of our contractual arrangement is they should let both parties know.
Yes.
Let the therapist know you're talking.
Yeah.
So we keep that openly and transparent. And they'll say, my therapist has told me I shouldn't do this or I should do that. And they think, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you think, am I hearing that right? The therapist has told you, not to marry Brian.
Yeah. Well, I've been in the last 5 years. I've been in psychotherapy. I have my own psychotherapy. I mean, horror stories of things.
God help them. I think horror stories for the psychotherapist.
Yeah, they still have nightmares about me to this day. No, there's things that get said in psychotherapy and in counselling sessions. I think I told you this. I was doing some work in Liverpool. It's a long time ago, maybe 2015, 2016. And a guy who was famously the go-to guy for female victims of sexual assault in Liverpool.
I
told you about it. And I sat in on the session and I won't repeat the joke that he made because it was just insane. But it was a joke about the shape of female genitalia. Really? And he did this on session 1 with no rapport with the client. He didn't even let her tell her story. She walked in and he said, let me tell you who I am and what I do. And then proceeded to deliver a corporate style TED talk about his history that included a joke about female genitalia. And I'm like, she was 26, 27, visibly frail, visibly underweight, visibly traumatized, almost squeaking voice, like she couldn't talk properly. She was shaking. And I was just, I because I wasn't in a position where I could say anything. I just had to observe this unfolding. I was horrified. He was, what I was told, he was the guy that the NHS was sending female clients sexual assault to.
Was he a PhD?
I don't know what he was.
No, I'm joking.
I mean, he was qualified. He was clinical.
That's probably how he got into the job, because the vacancy will have said must have,
whatever it is, and he has it. And I just thought, well, it reminded me in many ways of the old martial arts days, or the combatives days rather, where people would talk about this psychology technique and confrontation and that psychology and verbal confrontation. Okay. And I'd say to people, like, if you have social intelligence, you can make anything work.
Yeah.
If you don't have social intelligence, you can make fuck all work. And I can't really give you that in a course. And this guy had no social intelligence whatsoever. And I was like, how are you getting away with this? How are people not? Not only did he not do a great job, it wasn't like it was a mediocre 6 out of 10 therapy session where he built rapport and then established trust in 1 hour. He did damage.
Yes.
He did damage in that session. And I wasn't even in a position where I could say anything to her afterwards. I couldn't go with my clipboard afterwards and just be like, there was nothing I could do.
No, you had to let it run.
Professionally, there was nothing I could do. I'm not saying that's typical. No, I'm not saying that's typical. What I'm saying is the idea that everybody with a qualification is doing is making a sterling effort and doesn't make mistakes, and that they're just healing people hand over fist. They're just the healingness is just bursting out everywhere.
That's interesting.
It's not. It's not happening like that.
Well, I mentioned before when I used to run the Northwest Coaching Circle, a lucky spin-off for me was I got to meet so many diverse people in this world of helping, and I met some great therapists, some great counsellors as well.
Yeah,
and you start to realise that they're human beings. They may be in the wrong job, but they might be in the right job. Just human. So you can't. The other thing I just wanted to mention in the last 5 or 10 minutes of is this. I bet you it's got a name. I bet it's got a name, but it's like something that classifies you as an expert.
Yeah.
Like a PhD.
Yeah.
Sort of closes the door on you learning anything else. It's like, I'm an expert now. I don't need to learn anything else.
What does it do to your humility as a human being?
And if you sort of wrap that back into what we talked earlier about, like martial arts as an experience we've all had, it's well known, isn't it, that you should always be a white belt in somebody's class.
Absolutely.
So you're a black belt in Shotokan.
Absolutely.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Now go and do something else and see how you get on there. You'll get flattened.
You get flattened. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So it's always good to have humility, curiosity, not too bought into the fact that you managed to get an exam. You know, the word expert, you know, it's like, well, it's a trigger for me. Somebody says I'm an expert. I go, you stopped learning.
Yeah. Richard.
It's similar to it. Were you going to say Richie Paladin?
Yeah. Do you know the joke?
Understanding. It was him. I'm sure it was him. I'll attribute it to him. He said, once you say you understand something, you're closed off to any new learning.
Same.
Which is right.
Yeah.
You know?
Richard Bandler describes an expert as a has-been who's a severe drip under pressure expert.
Okay. That makes sense.
But yeah, there is that sort of closed offness. I should just say, I actually, by pure synchronicity, 2 days ago, I had a look into this. It's actually very, very rare for PhDs to work frontline with people. Even psychiatrists don't have PhDs. It's super rare. Like counselors, psychotherapists, almost net, because it's a PhD is a research qualification.
Okay, yes.
That means you spent 7 years doing your research. Yes. But we're using it as shorthand for other
white coats.
Yeah, academic qualifications.
Yeah. What did he call it, that bloke? What did he call it? Intellectual twattery or something, what was it?
Professor Edward Dutton calls it the people who go on about this, they're just credentialist twats.
Carry on.
I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, that is good, Mark. I must try and sneak that into a conversation.
Yeah. My next coaching session.
It's a very non-compassionate view, or maybe it's just ignorant, where they don't realise how many people are out there right now rocking in their living room, struggling to just live day to day, hour to hour.
So you're big on this. I know you're big on this. I'm sure. What ideas have you got that society could do to help that person rocking in their living room? And because you can't assign a therapist or a coach or to every single one.
No, it shouldn't be necessary.
And so what I'm trying to form a question around
That's a big question.
Is there a society type thing?
Yes.
I mean, we've had conversations in the past about how things happening in society are closing us, watching the news, boom, closing us down, being bombarded with advertisements of how we should aspire to this car or something. How do we sort of fucking throw the doors open and say, let's just live healthy lives?
We need to throw off our chains, brother, and only Marxism will help us defeat the evils of capitalism. I think we're in a strange place, and I would agree with the Marxist view to a degree that a lot of this is consumer capitalism run rampant, which needs us atomized, individualized, competitive, narcissistic, greedy, so that we keep buying a bunch of cheap crap that's cheaply made in developing countries.
And I think this is where it is at the moment. It's the building blocks are going. Capitalism go bump, 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 and right now, it's wobbling.
Oh God, it's wobbling.
It's wobbling. Yeah, people are wobbling and going on. All these things that I've been told that are important to me, and they're not helping me.
We're on the verge of a civilizational collapse, and I don't mean to be alarmist, because it might not be an overnight dystopian nightmare, but we're not expanding. We're not growing now. We're now receding civilizationally, and the collapse might come in 100 years or 200 years, but we're not on an upward spiral now. That's done. We peaked. Yeah. And we peaked, as you just, that image you just gave, was because we peaked in the wrong direction. We've got to come back to each other. It's making us really sick. We're not a good evolutionary match for this. And all my solutions are hippie solutions. They're, we talked about it years ago. You said about the, what was it? Is the next to the science park, there was the Irish Community Centre. Yeah. So people get together, they hang out together, they look at each other, they talk to each other. They're not on their phones, they're not on TV, they're looking after each other. Yeah. They're members of a real community, not a fake community, because fake communities are cringe and they're hard work. But a real community. You're actually a part of something.
That's a really good example as well, like, because as you go back into it.
And to have that sense of, we are each other's entertainment, we are each other's meaning, source of meaning, and that's what we need to get back. There's no money in that. You can't tax that. It's useless in a capitalist sense. It's useless, because that's, say we then all spend 16 hours a week, every individual in, let's say Liverpool takes it on, and all 1 million people in 1.5 million people in Liverpool and the Wirral take that on, and they spend 16 hours a week just being with each other and sharing with each other. Yeah. Instead of buying new shit, oh, you've got an old bike, haven't you? Yeah, I've got a bike here. This whole weight kit, don't buy those new weights. I've got an old weight. All that. Yeah. Not only are they not buying whilst they're spending time with each other, they're then not prospectively buying into the future either. Yeah. It is a nightmare for capitalism community. And so if I drew a graph, I'd say mental health is oppositional to the driving forces of consumer capitalism.
Good mental health.
Good mental health, sorry. Yeah, good mental
health.
Whereas
bad mental health is a sort of, it
perfect.
Supports it.
Perfect. I mean, Facebook, social media, Instagram, it all runs off bad mental health. It runs off aggression, envy, what's it called? Status anxiety.
Oh, FOMO, which is
FOMO.
We've even given it work. We've given it labels now.
We've got to come up with new labels because it's such a strange period of history that we're in. So all of it runs off ill health and ill will and competitiveness to each other. Yeah. We've made each other enemies, and it's a terrible mistake. Sorry, Terry.
No, I'm going to go on to something else. I'll pass that now.
That one's gone.
In Buddhist psychology, because I'm, I'm into all that. That's just that's barbershop singing, that.
Is it?
Okay. Bum, 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 bum.
We've got the mics.
Barbershop Buddhist.
The barbershop Buddhist. That's a great idea.
Fantastic.
Bum, 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 bum. Ding. And everybody goes silent. It's all right, lads. 15 minutes left. We can get there. Go on.
Are you a PhD Buddhist?
Buddha. Go on.
Can't believe it's on Buddha. Oh, I had to get that one in.
Oh. Hey.
Do I have to stay?
It's an old one, but someone out there.
What's this called in karate? Shukenkan or something. Shukenkan.
Shoto.
Is it Shuto? Shuto him in the neck. Shuto. Go on.
Hate, greed, delusion. The three biggest problems.
Demons of the apocalypse.
Yeah,
Hate, greed, and delusion.
Like the Buddha say, everything, every malady, every piece of suffering, despair, you name it. Yeah. So you can put it into those three categories.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. So the solution, the only solutions I offer would get me shot. I would have a terrible accident. If you had a movement and you said, look, you don't all need individual psychiatrists because we're not all individuals, for Christ's sake. Mm-hmm. That's nonsense. That's one of the many nonsenses of psychology. Mm-hmm. We're not individuals. We're pack animals. We're tribal creatures. We've lost each other.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with this world. There's nothing wrong with this world at all intrinsically. It could be the Garden of Eden. Yeah. But we have to let go of greed, delusion, and anger. Hate. And hate. And we have to stop trying to...
So we're going to shoot capitalists then? Is that the answer?
I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
Well,
violent overthrow of the system. as he gets into his BMW 4. I fucking hate capitalism, except if it's for me.
Yeah.
I hate it for everyone else, but for me, Steve.
Well, it is.
It's good.
I mean, it's a thing, isn't it? We've got to figure that out as well. Which I think we're being forced into it a little bit now, aren't we? With
everything's
problems
collapsing
in the world,
the institutions are collapsing,
and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
It's like people. We are people. We're all people, and we're complaining about the price of petrol. So.
Coleslaw.
Yeah. And coleslaw is that going up as well?
Oh God! But I'm using that as an example. Because it's a good example actually. Because I love coleslaw with pizza. You see, you've got to have coleslaw.
Stay with him. Stay with
me. Stay with me, right? Because I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere with this, right?
Willy Wonka.
I want to see this one work out. And
we've no way of no
right,
way.
Okay, so I went into the local shop.
Yeah.
I looked on the shelf. The coleslaw was there.
But there was nothing else.
Nothing else. Okay, yeah.
Come on.
It was 70p dearer. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I was saying to Steve there a couple of weeks ago.
You tried running your car on coleslaw.
I was saying to Steve a couple of weeks ago, right, fucking 70p. And he went, well, since when has coleslaw been a staple? And it hasn't.
Yeah.
But that to go back to the original thing, we're all that used to having things on tap, being able to go to shop and pick things up and,
In the old days, you had to go out and kill your own coleslaw, mate. No, it's true.
I did try and make coleslaw once.
You kids don't know you're
foul.
born.
It was foul.
5 a.m, knee deep in coleslaw blood I was.
At the cold
I still can't get the screams out of my head.
Yeah. I was at the coleslaw face.
I was cabbaged.
Oh.
Hey. Oh. Yeah, no, it's...
I'm rub it off.
Well, we haven't mentioned, and I suspect I know why. Obviously, there's a war on, but we haven't mentioned the war.
Don't talk about the war.
Don't talk about the war. I actually haven't even been following the news on the war. I have a theory why. Are you still following it? Are you still up to date with it?
To a degree. I find myself on to going,
it's only 50 days, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's 50 days today. Where are you still watching it as intently as you were?
Okay, no.
Yeah.
No is the answer.
Yeah.
Because, I might have said this, I don't know if it's talking to you or something. About 2 weeks ago, I just realised I was feeling really bad.
Yeah.
Mentally really bad.
Yeah.
In a bad mood, nothing. I thought, it's got to be that.
Yeah.
I stopped watching it for 2 days completely. I did not watch the news at all for 2 days completely. I've now started to gradually come back in because I do find it, do you know what? Fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a horrible word to use, but it's fascinating how the world's allowed it to get itself into this position. But it did. And I don't know if maybe I didn't say it to you. I remember saying it to other friends of mine. I'm not good.
Yeah.
I'm not really not good.
Yeah.
And when out on me, it was about the time the weather was nice for a while, and I was going out for long rides on my motorbike.
And did that help?
Just to
get it out.
Well, it did because it's so you. But there's a lot of people. Again, we're all people. That realization hasn't dawned, and we're all going to be feeling really shit because it's a shit thing that's happening in the world.
Yes.
And of course, what we're getting is our propaganda.
Okay, you said the word first. Of the three of us, you used that word first.
Well, we
Go
are.
on. Go on.
I'm not saying it's not true either.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's heavily laden towards us, and we've got to realise that, and we've got to check around the corner just to make sure.
You can hear it in the language of the people who present in the news. It's loaded. You know.
Yes, we're not just being given data, are we?
No.
Here's the news. Here is some data for you, and that is all. No, it's heavily loaded.
That is the nature of the news, though, isn't it? You know, it's
shouldn't
not,
be, but it is.
But
now,
you know what I mean. They
Yeah.
wouldn't come on and go, you know what? Millions of people have been at a great day.
No, I know.
You know,
Well, I've got
loads of planes didn't crash.
I've got a
Everyone,
video clip
you know,
from
you couldn't
years
do it.
ago. Somebody talking about the design of the intro for BBC News.
Yes.
There's two versions. There's a short and a long one. I can't remember why. And the composer who's given it was given a brief to create tension. And you listen to
Sounds like a countdown timer on a bomb.
It's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you listen to it, and it's like, and now that I know that, I mean, after first few weeks or whatever, after watching it, everything, I was just shit. Yeah. But even now, sometimes, it matches your heartbeat.
Does it really?
And then it increases. Yeah. You watch the news, the BBC News. I've got the video there of the guy talking about the brief. Quite matter of fact. He wasn't whistleblowing or anything. He was just saying, this is how we put it together because we want to capture people. It's got to have drama and energy and anxiety and all these things built in. Yeah. So going on to what you're saying, so why wouldn't the words follow the same script?
Yeah. Spike the adrenaline. It's all a bit of a sales pitch. So even if it's not political propaganda in the sense that you meant, it's still got a propagandistic element or a salesy element to it. Bad news sells. So the sales elements to it, there's propaganda elements to it.
I know. I mean, that's a word that doesn't get used in that sort of context. Propaganda, most people would think has a negative connotation, doesn't it? You know, but
you think of Edward Bernays.
Well, exactly. Wasn't his book called Propaganda?
Propaganda, yeah.
Edward, so Bernays, you know.
Yeah. Freud's nephew.
Basically, it was a marketing book.
Yeah.
You know, was it called Marketing and Propaganda or something?
It was just called Propaganda.
Was it? Yeah.
But he's credited, for want of a better expression, for consumerism now.
Yes, absolutely. Creating the notion of public relations and the consumerism that we have now, shifting people from buying the things they needed to things that they wanted.
Oh, definitely.
Which sort of feeds into what we were talking about before about psychology and all the limits and the dangers. He was Freud's nephew. Freud gave it to him. You know, his research. Sure, I mean, okay, so Freud wasn't exactly spot on. Was he perfect?
No.
You know, he passed it. I don't know if he sold it to him. God, don't think he sold it to him, did he? I don't know. I know he gave it to him.
To Bernays.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine
You wouldn't sell your nephew. You wouldn't sell it to your nephew, would you? There you go. Have it.
You wouldn't sell it to your nephew. You don't know Sigmund Freud very well, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, well, Sigmund was into cash. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Sigmund did.
Yeah.
He was people remember him as the grandfather of psychoanalysis. But if you actually look at his life and how he was living, he was a public intellectual in the mode of a Jordan Peterson. He sold books. He gave lectures. He gave seminars. He made outrageous claims.
Yeah.
Sometimes, possibly, because it drew crowds. I mean, he was inspired by late Industrial Revolution hypnoctists and the people who did the table tapping. Mesmerizers and occultists.
Yeah.
He was inspired by that. He was a showman. He knew what he was doing.
Interesting, that isn't it?
He knew exactly what he was doing. I always think like the view we have now when we look back into the past is that they were all just naively just doing their thing. Yeah. They knew what they were doing. You've seen the pictures of Hitler, haven't you? Where there was shot for a magazine. I can't remember which one.
Black background.
He's shouting.
Yeah.
It's totally staged. Yeah. So he must have gone into a room like this, and the photographer said, "Oh, Adolf, we really like it when you're passionately shouting." And he must have just started in a room to no one, just going and doing his thing, so they could get little still shots. They knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing. So yeah, I think in the specific case of Bernays and Freud, I hear what you're saying, but actually, I think Freud would have sold it to him. He would have sold it to him.
It's interesting where you give it that modern position, like a Jordan Peterson or any speaker today. They're out there. They're interesting to talk, but they're doing it not for just to inject goodness into humanity. They've got personal interest in it as well, 100%. Whether it's fame or power or money or whatever.
Well, Jordan Peterson's making a lot of money, and he's finally come out and said that he is considering a career in politics.
Oh, is he?
He is considering running.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Running for a political position in Canada, yeah. Just recently he said that, which is what one of his long-term friends from childhood, who he's since fallen out with, claimed. He said he's either going to set up his own church or he will run for the office of Prime Minister of Canada. And I read that 5 years ago, and it's coming to fruition.
I laughed when you said set up his own church, but knowing his stuff, because he is quite he uses a lot of religious metaphor, doesn't he?
He loves it, yeah. Even though he doesn't fully believe it, apparently.
No, yeah, but he does.
That's what you should do, mate. You should set up your own church.
If I wanted to be really wealthy, I'd definitely set up a church. Definitely. That's the way to go. People love it. They want me to set up a cult. I have to fight every day to not let it become a cult. But no, you're right. Bernays was the one. He took Freud's ideas and he coerced people to, really open Pandora's box. The world we live in now is the world that Bernays paved the way for. And I think it's a real shame. It's a real shame. So a lot of the mental illness stuff, I always look at the backdrop of everything. I like an anthropological, sociological view of psychology. If people didn't feel so fucking isolated, would they be complaining as much about anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, gender dysphoria, narcissistic abuse? I mean, how do you end up staying in a narcissistically abusive relationship? Well, one of the drivers that keeps people in them is they're fucking lonely. They don't want to leave because they don't have anyone else.
Well, yeah.
They don't have a community.
This is shit, but it's better than what I don't know.
Yeah, that stuff is shitter. Shitter.
It's a neurological thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uncertainty. We don't like it.
Yeah, so they stick.
There was ever a time when the world was perfect. Was there ever a time the world was perfect?
No.
When we were living in big, cute, friendly communities and all helping each other, you got attacked by a saber-toothed tiger if you weren't careful. So there's always pros and cons.
There's always something, isn't there?
And if you had bad teeth, that would have been a miserable experience. Imagine having a bad tooth in those
suck
times.
on a lion bone.
Ooh. No, it would have been difficult. But no, I don't think there would be a perfect way of getting things done. But I do think it could be way easier than it is. And the only way to bring that into enforcement is through a benevolent dictatorship.
Okay.
Forget the church.
Those two words are really hard to put together, though, aren't they?
No, but think about me as your dictator.
Yeah, but you said benevolence. That's the bit that's...
Fucking hell.
Benevolent, that means for other people as well as you.
Oh, I thought it meant narcissistic dictator. Sorry,
I thought you might have been thinking
benevolent. Benevolent for me.
Yeah.
For me.
And what about us?
Oh, you can
What about
be
your mates?
the Himmler and
Don't we get a
Goebbels
piece?
to my Hitler. I'll be the penis, you're the two testicles.
By the way, I've got
Been called that before.
open loop. Is that that's what you call it? Is it open loop?
Open loop, yeah.
Yeah.
My head keeps telling me I've got to mention
Put a bit of cream on it.
the propaganda.
Oh, yeah.
I'm inclined to believe our propaganda more than the other.
Yeah.
More than
Yeah,
the
we
other.
we probably should close that loop. You're not one of these nutters who are saying there's no war. You're not a nutcase.
No.
What you're saying is that what we're being told is not clean. It's not clean information.
It's not clean. And it has, all sorts of influences to influence us, to influence other people in the world. You know, they put something on our TV knowing that Russian intelligence are monitoring it just as much. So it's all
And
part of.
by nature, I think probably all three of us agree a sovereign nation should be sovereign. It should big other countries shouldn't just stick its finger up your bum. Like that's not good.
No.
In principle.
Because
That's
the
not
British
something that
never
should
did
happen.
it, did they?
Well,
That's a Soviet argument. It's called whataboutism. Look,
Oh, yeah.
just because we spent centuries building an empire on looting and rape doesn't mean we can't say looting and rape is bad.
so, but there's an interesting point in that. I'd say you're right there, both points.
Two Irishmen. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The two fucking Irishmen want to pop off now.
But it's
Listen,
like
lads,
the
it was
two
a long
wrong-
time ago. Let it go.
I'm telling you.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that the reason I said it actually is because I was just saying to Steve there before, I've just picked up a book, and one day I intend to read it. The Legacy of Violence, the history of the British Empire.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, the
What
Indian
do you mean? The
mutiny.
good deeds, the way we spread civilization
Absolutely,
to the
yeah.
uncivilized.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that?
If
What's
it
that?
wasn't for us,
No, and merely traded a few resources.
yeah.
Well, there's a quote which I'll probably garble because I often do. It was like, the Africans would say, when the British arrived here, we had all the land and they brought Bibles.
Yeah.
When they left, we had all the Bibles and they had the land. It's a trade. Hey,
It's
come
just
on.
a trade. Come on.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Benevolent dictatorship, though. I mean, because look, what we've done a reasonably good job on for the last hour or whatever is talking about the problems. We haven't come up with any solutions because they're not easy.
yeah.
But benevolent dictatorship is, I suspect that's a genuine solution from you, isn't it?
It is a genuine solution.
Yeah.
It is a genuine solution. And I'm not a political animal. Somebody else would have to do the fighting, so on and so forth, the executions, etc., etc. I don't want to see the bodies. I don't want to smell the burning corpses. And then they would have to, at gunpoint, because I'm a very humble man, force me into the position. But then everything probably would be better. But I would be in a, you could say that, you could put a monkey in that position. It would probably be better.
Well, indeed. But you're still forcing your will. So it's almost the coaching model we talked about earlier.
I was just going to say it's come round full circle, hasn't it?
The harder
Solution.
job it is, the harder job
Or-
is doing things so that people change and don't realize your thing caused them to change. I don't even need to be here, but I am here and I'm making this change. You know what I mean? So I would think, I don't know world politics and world history well enough. The only name I can bring right now is someone like Jacinta Ardern, leader of New Zealand.
Okay. Is it a benevolent dictator?
She's benevolent. I don't think she's a dictator, although
Okay.
I did speak to somebody recently who might have called her a dictator because of the recent lockdown.
Right.
But she's got a very, from what you hear, it's
A persona that's quite
human.
Yeah.
There's a human, there's empathy, there's compassion.
Right.
Now that's what I thought.
Until what?
Well, I've got a couple of New Zealand clients,
Go on.
and I said, yeah, I'm a bit impressed with that woman. No,
Really?
they weren't impressed.
Oh, really?
No, yeah, no, the way she's handled things. She seems to be doing a little bit better now,
Yeah.
but
I would, this is where obviously some people as they age, they go from the left to the right.
Yes.
I wouldn't have a problem with enforcing my will on people.
Okay.
I don't have the idea that everybody's basically good and they just need a free space in which to express their goodness. I would be making demands of people. I would say, you're a citizen of this country. This is what you have to do.
Like boundaries.
Yeah, getting pissed on a Saturday night and smashing each other's heads in, all of that would stop. Wasting the police's time, that would stop. Wasting the ambulance. Honestly, there's a lot of things that we've, that's illegal, don't you? What we do in is actually by British law, it's completely illegal.
What are you doing?
You not just punching each other. You actually can't be drunk in public like that. If you go to Concert Square in Liverpool,
you talking about us now?
Yeah. You can't do that.
We can't
now.
Drunk and disorderly.
You two, drunk and disorderly. You can't do. You're disturbing the police. You're disturbing the peace. It's drunk.
Disturbing the police as well.
So it's allowed to happen.
It's allowed to happen. I think as a pressure valve. Again, back to consumer capitalism. We know we're overworking people, and the most of the people who are getting bladdered out of their minds every weekend will be at the thick end of the wedge will be working class people.
Yeah.
And I think it's this weird quid pro quo. It's sick. It's really sick what we've gotten into, and we just need to stop. But the only way you could stop is by wiping the slate clean, and that would be a dictatorship. You just go, look, we're just not doing that anymore. That's how we used to live. The cancer rates are through the roof, obesity is through the roof, depression, anxiety is through the roof. We can stop all this, and now we will. And some people are going to whinge, but that's why it's a dictatorship. Yeah. And some people would absolutely fucking hate it, and there would be insurgents and terrorists, and I would say, well, that is part of dictatorship. I have special gulag for them. It's not a problem for me.
So I think when I mentioned Ardennes I don't know enough, as I say. I'd love to be able to mention the sort of Scandinavian leaders, and I don't really know them, but my impression is
what we get told.
They're more. Well, it's only what we're told, isn't it? Yeah. But there's something more about the humanity, the compassion, the empathy for people. Again, the consumerism thing, horrible. British politics is driven by financial thing. End of. Any mention of the NHS or care for is like because it has to be in there somewhere. But really, now I'm not even blaming anybody. I'm talking about we have a ruling class in this country whose thought processes are all around capitalism, financial, So to ask them to think caringly about a human being is asking them to speak a different language in some ways, isn't it?
That's why you need somebody who's a bit of a weirdo and an eccentric. Who does actually, even in a position of power, doesn't get corrupted.
Wow, that's it.
And really doesn't give a fuck about the money. I would say, like, one of the things you said there, I can't think off the top of my head of a country in the world that isn't driven by financial drivers.
It's got to be in there.
I lived in Sweden, and it's not.
Isn't it?
The compassion and the human touch and everything. It's too far. They've gone too. They've really got.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a weakly run country, in my opinion, and in many people's opinions. And these Scandinavian countries. The last time I lived in Sweden, it was 2015. And even then, there was worry of a far-right backlash.
Yeah.
Because you go too far into permissiveness and boundarylessness. And all, you foster that. That drive for boundaries from the yang wants to oppose the yin polarity, and it brings it in. So I think you need somebody who's in charge who is weird, who is not a political animal, who's not there for a legacy or something, but actually wants to see a country of people do well and be happy and thrive as a nation, just genuinely thrive. And to give people enough structure that it doesn't kill them. Because what we have now is this weird coercive structure. The working week now is ridiculous. People are working far too hard for not enough pay.
Oh, absolutely.
And if this doesn't stop soon, there will just be riots. And
it's part of the blocks I was talking about.
Yes. Way too much. Way too much for way too little.
There was a time, I might have mentioned it before, earlier, I don't know. There was a time when, a short period of time, 3 years, when I had a job, business link, helping companies get started. And that, again, great experience. It introduced me to new things. And one of the things, one little pinprick of a thing, I got to understand a little bit about, I think, what did he call them? Not charities, but community something companies, CICs. Anyway, to the point. It's well known in that circle they have this. They are measured on a triple bottom line.
Yeah.
Finance, ecology, and humanity. Not that word at all. So their annual reports and their shareholder, stakeholder reports and less, have those three, and they have to meet certain targets. Businesses I work with, one bottom line, financial, boom. There might be colouring and flavouring around it, but I'm trying to say these people now. If we could get, well, here we go. We haven't got time. I know. This country, we're stakeholders in this country, and yet we do not see the financial books of this country. We don't, know, all that sort of thing. We see a manifesto. I promised to do this. 2 years, you never did. I've changed.
Yeah.
So there's no. It's not run like a company. No. But if it was, wouldn't it be nice if we was run like these community interest groups? I think that's what I'm thinking of here now.
Community interest company.
Something like that. But it's anyway, triple bottom line. Yes, finances. We've got to finance the whole infrastructure and the rest of it. But also in there, measurements that show how well we're doing on the environmental issues. That was the other one. And I'm going to say humanity, but it's not the right word. But it was something about people.
Yes.
The health of the people.
Yeah.
If you look at this country now, we talk about the GDP, and we do talk about rates of sickness, rates of education, but we don't really measure them as such.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go anywhere on a government website and say, what's the target for the next 5 years for so-and-so qualifications, degrees, we just know it happens, and it's a bit of a mess, and we charge people a lot of money. We're charging young people inordinate amounts of money to become educated
to help us.
Yeah,
as a country. For Amazon.
Yeah,
so we just say, boom, we're on target. We've got. I mean, is it Korea where they have like it's actually measured? They want to be the most broadband wired company in the world. They want to be the most educated number of degrees in the world. That must be a lot better to go to a national international conference and talk about them than to say we've got the most what do they call them, food banks in the world. We're right up there food bank wise. Brilliant. Doing well on
food banks. Yeah,
I'm getting all political now.
No, which is fine. I think it's totally fine. I think it's actually because it's all part of the same thing. It's how do we conceptualize a human being? How do we conceptualize history? How do we conceptualize trauma? Because human beings have trauma. That's their history. Yeah. Same with the country. How do we get here?
Okay.
What are these coping mechanisms we use? Why do we have food banks? That's a coping mechanism. For what? A failing in the system. What's the failing? What systemically went wrong? And what, like, the Jordan Peterson point, face your damn responsibility.
It's quite good, that.
Clean your room and so on.
Yeah. And stand-up's great.
So where did we not clean our rooms? Where did we not? Yeah. Where did we miss our responsibility? What crimes did we get? What lies did we get away with? I just listened to him recently, and he was saying, when it comes to his clinical practice, most of the mental illness he deals with, if you trace it back, it starts somewhere with a lie or a deception, either to the self or to another person. Okay. So what are our crimes? What do we need to look at? And delusion again. Back to the Buddhist point of delusion. Yeah. And I think you could,
wow.
Well, it sounds idealistic, but if you're not going to be idealistic in politics, where are you going to be idealistic? I mean, that's the place to have you've got to balance realism with idealism, but I think we can. We could be doing better than this.
Definitely.
This is fucking garbage.
We're fighting all the time, aren't we? We're fighting for survival. We feel, okay, there you go. We are still, what's it called? Fight, flight, responding.
Fight or flight.
Trauma responding. We're
still trauma responding all the time.
Yeah. It's a country that is in basically a state of borderline personality disorder, extremely labile sense of self, that's self-conflicted, doesn't know what it wants to be, doesn't know what it's about, changes from the morning to the evening. Yeah. The coping mechanisms are self-destructive, lots of suicidal ideation. That's what the whole woke movement is. It's suicidal ideation. We dream of an end of the nation. We're like, it's evil, it's pointless. So in psychiatric terms, it's become a bad object. It's an irredeemably negativistic object, and it should be eradicated. That's suicidal ideation. The country's got borderline.
What do we do?
Well, mate, we've got to round people. We've got to round
with a song.
We've got to bum 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 bum.
What 3 things could you do by the end of today that would move this forward?
Engage in stillness, silence, and inner spaciousness. Everybody should sit still, ding, and just be silent. Enjoy the moment. That's what would help. Imagine getting a whole nation just into meditation, man.
You say, it's a lot more powerful than we're making it. You're saying it now, but it is powerful if you can stay present, grounded in the moment.
Yes.
That is a powerful thing to be able to do.
I think that's
what do most people do.
Yeah.
The anxiety. What's anxiety? Projecting into the future.
Yeah.
Or a future that they don't want.
Yeah.
And you get the anxiety now in the nervous system.
I think that's why the hippie movement was such a threat.
It was
such a threat. Psychedelics.
A threat. Sorry, a threat.
So it was such a threat because of the psychedelic and the meditation element
right,
free love.
Yeah.
Because people were just getting together in communities, so they were communists in communities, taking psychedelics and shagging and meditating. You can't have that. You can't if you've got an industrial military complex to feed, the great god Moloch. You need tax-paying citizens who are breeding more tax-paying citizens.
Lots, yeah.
And they need to go on registers.
And consumers.
And consumers, yeah. So with meditation's actually a legitimate threat. Psychedelics and meditation are both legitimate threats to the hierarchy. Because you're in a meditative state, you're on a different frequency. You're just not in the game.
It's a perception of meditation that make a lot of people go,
But boring.
You could be, being present, being fully focused is something that you enjoy as a meditation.
You could make meditation sexy.
Boxing of a Thursday, that's a form of...
That's a good point.
What I call it, active meditation. Active flow.
Yeah.
It is until you punch me in the fucking guts, Terry. I'm meditating here. What's it called? The Okazuki. Chudan Okazuki. Gakazuki. After.
Get it right.
Gakazuki to the Chudan and the Jodan and the Daisan. What's the downstairs? Nidan.
Yeah.
I started with karate. I can't remember any of this.
That's about it.
Yeah. Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Any closing statements?
I want to get off. Stop the world.
Stop the world. We want a different reality.
We do.
Yeah.
No, let's go for it. Let's go for the meditation and psychedelics.
Yeah. Would you up for that? Just a little acid in your Guinness.
Microdosing on MDMA. That's supposed to be a thing that's coming through, isn't it? Legitimizing.
That'll work. That should work. It's like, I would say a joke about psychedelics, but as a drug that would be safe for people with psychological issues, small doses of MDMA would get much more stable results.
There's been a few articles in the last few weeks that have flashed across screens about credence being given to, psilocybin and MDMA. Managed, controlled, medical, and saying that they are able to see changes in the brain structure, that it's...
Because it generates neuroplasticity and it releases endorphins and serotonin. In other words, it puts people in a mental state where their brain can actually change. They're not all stiff and resistant.
Exactly.
The beliefs will change and move and they feel really good. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah. Oh, I have options. Yeah.
I don't have to spend money for these trainers made in a sweatshop in China. Wow.
Revelation.
It's okay, man. It was good chat.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I hope you remember to put the cameras on, because we've just spent...
Sorry, it wasn't recorded. Start again.
It's Good Friday, isn't it?
It's Good Friday.
Tomorrow.
Now,
Is it, yeah?
No,
we've got that long. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And we look forward to speaking to you again next time. Cheers.